The WWF, what the world is watching. Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade, now at episode 189, as we begin the definitive edition of the WrestleMania 5 review right here on the Grenade. I am Ray Russell, and this week we've got a slew of special guests coming to you guys as we cover the first 8 matches from the WrestleMania pay-per-view, going back to April 2, pal, 1989. 4 big guests upcoming, including new and returning voices you haven't heard in quite some time. That's right, we're going to do it all here, from Rockin Robin all the way to the Brainbusters versus Strikeforce, right here on part 1 of the definitive edition of the WrestleMania 5 review. Without further delay, let's get things going. All right, guys, we're going to kick this thing off the right way here. We've got a few guests coming up over the course of these 2 episodes of the WrestleMania 5 review, the definitive edition. But we're going to kick it all off the right way, bring in someone who was actually there at the event himself. He was here for WrestleMania 4, the definitive edition, and he's returning for 5 right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Here he is, Mr. Jammie Ward. Welcome back to the Grenade. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been on a Grenade. I've been on every other of your shows recently, but this is my return, and I don't know if I was lucky enough to go to 2 straight WrestleManias in Atlantic City, but I did it.
Oh, you don't want to call it luck? You just want to admit you were there, though. That's where it all starts.
I was glutton
right?
for punishment.
Well, you know what they say. It's the first way to cure the cancer is to admit you have the problem. But to make it to WrestleMania 4, we told that story of how you took the ride down and you guys had a great time out there on the boardwalk. The nice cold weather air there heading into the Mania. But here you are again. You return back WrestleMania 5. Tell me how you get there this time. Do you travel differently? What happens this time around when Jammie Ward decides, I really want to go to WrestleMania 5?
Well, not only did I want to go, but my dad wanted to go again.
All right, Dad.
Because he really enjoyed it last time. So a little bit different. We bought tickets in plenty of time. We were in the second level, camera facing us this time. I've still never seen myself, even when I checked out today, to the right upper deck.
Okay.
But this time we drove down.
Okay.
Since the show started, what was it, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon?
4 o'clock, I believe it was. I believe it was 4.
Okay, 4 o'clock. And we got down there like 11 or 12 in the morning. My dad he was a wedding photographer, so he didn't fool around when it came to time. So
my grandfather would get everywhere 2 hours early, it felt like, and I kind of got that from him, and it doesn't mesh so well with my wife, who likes to get everywhere a few minutes late, so... But I can appreciate that, man, and this time there was a little planning ahead. You knew you were going, you guys, excitement. Yep. It's always great when the parents, or at least even one of the parents, is in on it, man, because it's a shoe-in, and that's a phenomenal thing to be back down there again. So take me through it this time. You get down there this time, you travel by vehicle, you drive down this time around. And how old are you at this point, Jammie? You're old enough to drive? You're at the post office by now, right?
I'm old enough to drive. Oh, yeah, I'm already in the post office a couple of years. I'm in on like 3.5 years at this point, almost 4 years. I got in October of 85.
What am I thinking? You're already driving the NWA everywhere by this point, right?
I just came back from spring break in Florida with Tom Robinson.
Oh, very good. Well, that's another podcast in and of itself.
March. Well, that's where you want to check out the other ship in Story Time with Uncle Jamie. Those stories come up on the other ship. Very
good. We might have to bring Tom. Tom's been trying to hint at he returns, so maybe we'll have you and Tom on here and tell those spring break stories. Nothing wrestling related, I'd imagine, but certainly entertainment personified. I have no doubt about it. But this week, guys,
right?
Well, I hope we can entertain this week some of your memories. What was the weather like this time around? Pretty much the same?
If I remember, it was pretty decent this time in April. It wasn't like in the 40s like last time.
Right.
It was decent, probably in the the high 50s because I think I wore shorts and a sweatshirt.
Okay, yeah, they're going to show a clip of
venture.
Mr. Fuji at some point here doing the 5K run. I'm sure you were not a part of that, Jammie. However, Mr. Fuji was doing it in a tuxedo, never broke a sweat. God bless him. But no, it's going to be a fun time, guys. We're jumping back into time right now, going back into WrestleMania 5. The Mega Powers explode.
The Mega Powers explode here at WrestleMania 5.
All right, here we are, April 2, WrestleMania 5, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino, a.k.a. Convention Hall. Is that correct, Jammie? It's not actually in the casino a lot. I misunderstood that growing up, but apparently this is it an extended building? I can't remember what you told me it for. It's
adjacent, like the casino was next door.
Okay.
And this is where they held the Miss America contest for like 100 years before before Trump bought it and took it out of Atlantic City.
Okay. Well, we heard the intro there. It hits the WWF, what the world is watching. And in this era right here, this Mega Powers Explode era specifically, it truly felt to me like the world was watching that particular storyline anyway. You heard it right there. The Mega Powers Explode. Vince McMahon introing here at WrestleMania 5. But it was just a different dynamic for me because I had family members that didn't really watch wrestling, but they knew the Hogan, Macho Man, Elizabeth saga. Maybe not every little intricate detail, but they knew of it. There were kids at school that never really talked about wrestling, but they talked about the Mega Powers exploding. And so it was just a different dynamic. This was something that like kind of captivated the world in some way, shape, or form. This story with Hulk Hogan, the Macho Man, and Elizabeth.
Yeah, it sure did. As a matter of fact, back up 2 months to that live main event.
Yeah.
I had 20 smart fans piled in my living room because a bunch of guys came in to see the February NWA card. And, TR was there, Ron Lemieux, WCW referee Scott Dickinson, and countless others, including Dave Meltzer, were all piled into my living room to watch that entire show, complete with Hulk Hogan say, "Am I on yet?"
Yeah, check the tiz on there, brother. Indeed. So here we are, the mean saxophone playing us in there in the intro. Boy, they love the saxophone. They used that all over the place here in the late 80s WWF, the big sax, the brass band stuff. And here we are again, Gorilla Monsoon welcoming us, a voiceover here as we see the big crowd. Again, that was an amazing shot that they would take. They did it at 4, they do it at 5. They looked like they left the lighting up because Bruce said they put the lighting up there and they left it up there and it stayed there year round. And then when they left 5, it just stayed there for, they never came back for it. So it's kind of funny to see the same lighting structures here that were not part of Convention Hall. The WWF put that there at 4 and it's still here at 5 and it still works, knock on wood here. So that's pretty damn cool. But that arena, man, there's something about it just so big, especially from that, the camera angle I'm talking about from the far corner. It just looks amazing.
Well, once upon a time, the Liberty Bowl was played there.
Okay. Did not know that.
In college football. Originally, that was played in JFK Stadium in Philadelphia, which was probably Municipal Stadium at the time. And then, they were afraid of bad weather, so they moved the game to the biggest indoor arena that was local, which was the Atlantic City Boardwalk Convention Hall.
That is a large building, I got to tell you. It's amazing that more things weren't held there at the time, but Gorilla Monsoon letting us all know that you can cut that electricity with a knife tonight, because boy, do we have 14 big matches on the docket, and of course, the return of Rowdy Roddy Piper before too long. But before we even get to see the commentators, Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse here, Monsoon going to throw it to the ring for the singing of America the Beautiful. Off to the ring we go. Howard Finkel introducing the WWF Women's Champion, Rockin Robin, which was just announced the week before on TV, just the week prior, that Rockin Robin would be singing America the Beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, here to sing America the Beautiful, the World Wrestling Federation's Women's Champion, Rockin Robin!
and the music begins to play, but nothing comes out of Robin's mouth. Now, a lot of people haven't seen this. This is edited out of the Coliseum video version, the network version, every version other than the live version. A lot of people don't realize, Jamie, I don't know if you remember this because you're smiling like you do, but the first time they go to Rockin' Robin, that poor girl standing there in the middle of the ring in that beautiful white dress, it looks like she's completely full of nerves. And the music starts to play, and it plays a little more, and then it just kind of fades out. And she never sings. So a lot of people don't realize that we're coming to the train wreck in a minute, but it starts here. This couldn't have helped matters at all. Robin does never open her mouth on the first attempt at singing America the Beautiful. What was going on there?
I just don't think she was ready.
Okay. But you heard the music. I just want to be clear. Like, you remember this? Or
No, I remember that. They started to play it, and then, it played for a couple seconds, and then all of a sudden it went out, and then like there was no re-announcement saying Rockin' Robin doing the America the Beautiful. It just, the music started over and she started singing. I always figured that this was Jake Roberts pulling strings. I mean, she didn't have a horrible voice.
Well,
was she the best person to probably sing this? Hell no.
Well, we're gonna get to that. We'll let the listeners be the judge in just a moment, man. I know a lot of people. Hell, Robin's even talked about it, and we'll discuss that here in a minute too. But they have to ad lib now. They have to throw to Gorilla and Jesse because something went wrong in the ring. We don't know exactly what it was yet. So we go to Gorilla and Jesse live. Jesse wearing his old masquerade mask from these early days in the WWF, removing it though as the camera doesn't really catch it. So that was unfortunate. But he says finally the body can talk because Gorilla got to do not one, but two intros to WrestleMania here before Jesse Ventura finally gets to have his say. And Monsoon, he's going to give us all the great lines of the event, just jam-packed to the rafters. And, of course, he assures us all that this, in fact, will be
right here at Trump Plaza in Atlantic City. They're jam-packed to the rafters here. It's going to be a happening.
So you know it's WrestleMania now. And just like that, the director in the ear or somewhere giving word, and the host sent us back. Take two. We head back to the ring. Now, I'm going to correct you really quick here, Jamie.
Okay.
Howard Finkel does indeed apologize to the fans for the quote-unquote audio difficulties. And if you count Rockin' Robin not singing an audio difficulty, well, stay tuned. I got another one for you here in just a moment because off we go right now, guys. Fink introducing Rockin' Robin for the second time now. Here she is, the women's champion. We're not going to play the whole thing for you. I'm not going to do that to you guys, but just a quick clip of Rockin' Robin, quote-unquote, singing America the Beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the audio difficulties. Here to sing America the Beautiful, the World Wrestling Federation Women's Champion, Rockin Robin!
Spacious skies and waves of gray, for purple mountains, majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
I told you about Howard Finkel apologizing earlier. Maybe he should apologize for those audio difficulties there. That was, somebody should auto-tune that, I think. Poor Rockin'. You said she had a decent voice. I'm not trying to crap on her. It's just, this is a big spectacle. It's not like you're, singing in front of 8 people at a Little League game or something here. This is WrestleMania, or it's just any event of 20,000 people strong, and you go out there, and again, you could see the nerves in her, the jitters, but she was smiling her way through it, and God bless her. She really, you could tell she was patting herself on the back when she hit her stride with that, and crown thy good with brotherhood. She really laid that in there. God bless Rockin' Robin, man.
And crown thy good with brotherhood.
As I was saying, she was like a choir singer or a good karaoke singer.
Yeah, there was some. Yeah, I don't.
You could tell she has some kind of singing experience, but not this kind. of singing experience. This isn't Aretha Franklin in there.
No. Well, I was going to say here, we got a few, you could tell, she was really feeling it though. Near the end, it definitely nerves like crazy though. She just looked like which is odd because she's been a performer here in the company for a year and a half, but going out there and singing in front of people is not going out there and wrestling in front of people. Very different situation here. So Robin has done some interviews in recent months, maybe the last couple of years. She discussed this whole situation, stating that she wasn't sure how this came about when they came to her and said, hey, you want to sing America the Beautiful at WrestleMania? She said the only thing she could think of, and you kind of hit the nail on the head there, was sometimes after the shows, they would go back to the hotel bars and they would all have some fun. And sometimes there would be karaoke, and she always got up and sang, not necessarily because she loved to sing, but because she liked having a good time with the boys and she'd get up and sing. So she thinks somebody heard that and put it in somebody's mind that, hey, let Robin sing. She can sing. Of course, it doesn't hurt at this point that, Jake is on the roster. Of course, Grizzly Smith is actually still here. Actually, Grizzly finishes up here at WrestleMania, as does Sam Houston, just gets let go. So basically, there's going to be a pillaging of Grizzly Smith's family here after the pay-per-view, and Rockin Robin probably can blame herself for part. No, I'm just kidding. But so, like you just said, though, after the great Ray Charles, the legendary Aretha Franklin, and Gladys Knight killing it in the same venue last year, Robin seemed like a very odd choice.
Maybe Vince was knew No Holds Barred was going to flop, so he needed to save a little bit of money.
Save a couple bucks off
and cut back on the celebrities a little bit.
We need less celebrities, pal. I never heard Vince say that before, but it's I could go along with that here. No Bob Uecker, so that already is a bummer moving into this because he killed it the last 2 years. So to not use Bob Uecker, you got to bring back the uke. But I've seen rumors of people claiming now there are a couple other legendary musical talents at the time were residency there in Atlantic City, and they were kind of looking into those two names. I can't remember what they are, and I can't find any actual factual anything substantial to back it up. So I didn't really do any digging into it, but apparently, Rockin Robin goes out there and she tries her heart out and gets the prestigious honor of singing America Beautiful here at WrestleMania. Now, the end result, well, you guys heard it right there, some of it anyway, didn't want to put anyone through the entire ordeal that I went through there. Robin, though, takes it in stride because, like I said, she's done interviews, Jamie, and she stated something along the line, I'm paraphrasing here, that she didn't realize she couldn't sing until she realized she couldn't sing. She realized when we realized that, okay, I'm not cut out for this. So that leads me to believe, are you telling me that you didn't practice this one time, not even the day of the show, and you just went out there to sing, just wing it like this? I find that hard to believe, but the way she tells it, like, she didn't ask for it. She wasn't going to turn it down, and she didn't realize that it was going to be that bad until it happened, came out of her mouth. And I think, and I could be wrong, but I feel like she said if she had to do it over again, she probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I imagine she probably did some test runs, but not in front of anybody to get opinions, or there's people that were supposed to give her opinions were sucking up to her instead, telling her how great she was.
Well, you want to motivate her. It's already locked in. You're not. I mean, you could have technically had Mean Gene go back out there and do it again, like he did at the first one.
Right.
I don't know what Mean Gene would have charged for something like that here in 1989. I did hear, this is an older interview. I remember, though, her specifically saying the faux pas the first time around when she doesn't open her mouth is she didn't hear the music playing. It wasn't playing out loud, and I found that very hard to believe because I could hear it over the house speakers, right? So that's, I don't know. But that's the way she remembers it anyway. You got to give it to the crowd, though. They were polite. They applauded afterwards. They gave her a little golf clap.
Yeah, I remember the stutter start. I don't remember Finkel reintroducing it. Again, what is it,
36 years?
Yeah. 37 years ago. So I don't remember Finkel reintroducing it.
Yeah.
But I rewatched it today.
Yeah.
And she wasn't pitiful, but she was.
Well, that's fair.
She wasn't pitiful, but she wasn't the quality of somebody that should have been in this position.
No, and I think that's what it comes down to. She's just somebody that, sings for fun. And she wasn't necessarily ready. That's a hard song. Even though it's a slower song, there are notes in there that if you can't hit those notes, it's not going to be a fun night. That's where she was. But she does leave the ring with all smiles, maybe nervous smiles, but smiles nonetheless. And then Jesse lets her have it. And I'm sure he had this plan no matter how she was going to sound, but it didn't play so well here, given how well she performed, or lack thereof. Jesse with she better not quit her day job, Monsoon.
I'll tell you something, Gorilla. She better keep her daytime job is all I gotta say.
Do you think you could do any better, Jesse?
She better stick to wrestling.
Give me a break.
And, of course, you would expect nothing less from Jesse. Of course, Gorilla going to do the old, give me a break. So Gorilla trying to support Rockin Robin there as she leaves the ring. But that's how we kick off WrestleMania.
Yeah. And, you know, last time we talked about WrestleMania 4, we talked about how it is known as it was all the gamblers in the audience, they said, and that caused the ovations to be down. I didn't pick up on it that much in the arena. But this time around, I thought it was a legit Philadelphia Spectrum crowd. I thought the fans were more wrestling fans this time around. And that's why Rockin Robin got not booed to death when she leave, or worse than that, silence.
Right.
Because
had it been the High Rollers, I feel like it would have been more of a silent crowd, because they were silent for the majority. And it's funny, you mentioned that, and I'm glad you did. I put it somewhere in my notes in one of these matches somewhere. I'll be reading it at some point. But I noticed that. I noticed when the camera would pan even to the front row, and not on the hard camera, because you got Donald Trump and his crew. But on the other sides, there were teenagers and things of that nature. So it felt like they kind of filled out the closer rows with actual wrestling fans. They learned from their mistakes, if you will, the last time around. All right. And we are going to move on, guys, as Rockin Robin did. We're going to go straight back to the ring. Robin leaves the ring, and it's time for our very first match of the night. We're going to have another little blooper here in just a moment, Jamie. I'm going to see if you remember this one. But we go straight back to the ring. The royal music begins to play as we head to the aisle for the entrance of one King Haku, led by manager Bobby Heenan. Haku's opponent, the Mighty Hercules, in what has to be a rib here by somebody. Haku carried out on a royal sedan down the Trump Plaza aisle, complete with steps. That's got to be a thing. I can't imagine what those guys were going through trying to carry a sedan with a 300-pound Tongan on it. I mean, with that wood over your shoulders. There's only 4 of them, too. Usually we get wrestlers doing this. This appeared to be more like, I don't know, guys in suits, attendants in suits.
Yeah, when I was watching it today, I never saw any of those guys before. And WWF liked to use Larry Sharp guys. And the night before WrestleMania, I was at Sharpomania. Larry Sharp against Iron Mike Sharp up in North Jersey.
Wow.
And I knew most of all the guys that worked that show, and I saw a lot of them in the crowd.
Oh, okay.
So, but when I looked back, that was none of the Larry Sharp's independent guys that I recognized. The only guy I recognized, and I guess it was kind of appropriate since they were carrying a guy with a crown, was Terry Garvin leading the way down to the ring.
Terry Garvin, that's right. I remember him walking around the side of the... That's right, yeah, leading them down. You're absolutely right. I remember somebody in front of him. I couldn't remember who it was. It was Terry Garvin. I'm picturing his face now as he kind of power walked in front of Haku there. Fun note, though, because we don't get this on any other... Like Robin, the forgettable being edited out there for first take. Here on the way to the ring, Howard Finkel on the live version only announces from the Isle of Tonga, King Tonga.
Ladies and gentlemen, our opening contest is scheduled for one fall. Approaching the ring area with his manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan, from the Isle of Tonga, weighing 273 pounds, King Tonga.
There he is in all his glory. King Haku being led down here by how many guys are carrying that thing, Jess?
And now on any other Coliseum Video Network version, whatever, he's King Haku. They go and they fix it. They edit that in way back in '89 after the fact. But do you remember that? Do you remember Fink flubbing like that right out of the gate?
It got right by me. Okay. I didn't catch it because even though he was been Haku, I've been calling him King Tonga for 4 or 5 years at this point.
Right.
Going back into Montreal, I've been calling him King Tonga. So even when he became Haku, I was still calling him. It was Tonga and Tonga, the Tonga Kid and King Tonga. That's something for me that it just blew right past me.
Well, that's I thought it was fun. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's a little mistake, but it's just a fun mistake because he didn't really screw up because he was, like you said, King Tonga for a long period of time. But right now I'm going to read some notes, and I see right out of the gate a note that you already kind of mentioned here. This is where I say I note there appears to be more fans ringside this year than the High Rollers. A better look for the company, but even still, front and center, there he is facing that hard camera, the one and only Donald Trump and his assorted millionaire buddies who are yet to make their way down, it looks like. But you see Trump smiling, though, at Bobby Heenan. He appreciates Bobby Heenan's shtick, right? He sees Bobby in the ring, Bobby asking all the fans to rise and bow before the king, and Trump's just kind of sitting there smiling. He's really enjoying himself some Bobby the Brain. So at the end of the day, he probably didn't know a whole lot of the workers, the stories, the gimmicks, but he knew Bobby, and I think he really appreciated that. So not trying to put over Donald here. This is not a political thing, but it's just funny to see somebody so Donald Trumpy out there just, appreciating Bobby Heenan. Everybody appreciates the Brain.
Yeah, and Trump back then, at least to me, in like the interviews leading up to it and stuff, like on Entertainment Tonight, he seemed to be a guy that enjoyed wrestling. Not that he was hardcore like you and I and everybody listening to this, but he seemed to enjoy it, and he looked like he was having a good time. I noticed his wife didn't join him this time around.
Yeah,
but I don't know, maybe if they were separated at that point. He had so many divorces and stuff back in that time, but I noticed she doesn't participate this time around.
Well, that's probably a good call. That was kind of rough just watching her dip out finally, I believe somewhere around the Barber hockey match last year before she just called it quits. But, Marla Maples, well, she'll get with Trump later on. She'll be part of WrestleMania 7. So that's funny how that stuff works out. But, of course, Bobby Heenan asking the fans to bow before the king. They boo instead as the trumpets soon begin to play. The Mighty Hercules making his way to the ring wrapped in chains, looking to finally get some revenge on Bobby Heenan and his former family. Of course, we know it was Heenan who tried to sell Hercules his services to the $1 Million Man. How absurd. Back in October of 1988, but not as a bodyguard, not as a tag team partner, or even as a heavy in the ring, kind of the guy you got to go through to get to me, but rather as a servant, or better yet, a slave, if you will. A surprise to Hercules, who refused the offer and argued with his former manager up there on the stage. Now, Bobby washed his hands of Hercules as the Mighty One began his feud with Ted DiBiase. But as that wrapped up at February's main event program, Hercules now looks to seek revenge on the man who sold him up the river, one Bobby the Brain Heenan, and any member of the Heenan family who stands in his way. And tonight, that just happens to be King Haku. Tell me what you're thinking here, Jamie, back in 1989. Were you a Hercules babyface guy? Did you buy into that? They tried to give him that semi-main slot, and it just didn't seem to work.
Now, Hercules, more or less, after he first came in, whatever oomph he had, to me, he just lost. It just wasn't the same guy. And when he turned face, it was like Kempatera turning face. It really did.
Ooh, that's rough.
Nothing for me at the time. I mean, I didn't really get into him again. I want to say Power and Glory is after this, correct?
Correct. Oh, yeah. Roma. Right, yes. That's a fun team.
Power and Glory was decent. But this part of Hercules with the powder blue tights, nah, I didn't. Not a fan. Give me Hercules in Mid-South 1985 or 84 with Jim Cornette. Right. And as Mr. Wrestling number 3 or 2, whatever wants to be called, or when he was an assassin with Jody in Middle Atlantic.
Fafon.
When he was Hot Stuff Hercules Hernandez, that was.
Well,
that was a cool Hercules. This Hercules I just didn't buy. Hey, Rick, can you refresh me how he got to be King Tonga?
Well, Haku picked up the name King Tonga before he ever arrived in the WWF.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, King Haku?
How he got to be King Haku?
Harley Race suffers the injury in the match with Hulk Hogan, and we need a new king. And honestly, they were trying to redo the Islander shtick. They brought Siviafi in to team with Haku and Tama and do this 3-man tag team. Tama quits immediately. They're like, yeah, we're not feeling Siviafi and Haku, so they boot Siviafi, and now Haku's standing there all alone. And Harley Race just goes down to injury, and somebody came up with the idea to put a crown on him, and they coronate him in the ring, and then they start doing those weird vignettes where Bobby Heenan's basically lamenting like the death of Harley Race, right? So, and then Race comes back and looks for revenge, but Haku takes him out at Rumble 89, and that's the end of Harley in the WWF.
Right, okay. So the part with Jim Duggan, that's a little bit later.
That's coming.
Duggan becomes king.
Tough guy.
That's coming. I'm not there yet. All right.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Nearly 40 years later. Oh, man. So here we go. Mighty Hercules looking for revenge out here against King Haku. Haku going to start off What do we got? We got Earl Hebner in the ring for referee, and Earl's replacing Dave. Dave actually, I don't know if it's at this event or the immediately thereafter, but Dave is going to become an agent right around this time period. This is when they release some agents and they switch over to Dave Hebner and a couple of the other guys. So Dave is turning into an agent, and Earl's going to take over all his slots as far as refereeing goes. Although they're going to call Earl Dave for a little bit here, which is just weird.
It was weird after going back a year when you had the twin referee angle, where he got the plastic surgery. So he just lived with the plastic surgery, I guess, for the rest of his life.
That's it. And he got a job out of it somehow after being such a crooked official, too. And he still gets a job here, which is just insane to think about. But here we are in the ring, WrestleMania 5 Hercules, and they're swinging the chain. Boy, that was a dangerous freaking chain. He was like 20 feet long. He would swing the I'm telling you, man, it's very lucky nobody ever got hit with that damn thing as the heels wisely powder to the floor. Finally, Earl Hebner going to try to convince the Mighty One to release his chain. Haku sneaking from behind, attacking Hercules. Haku getting hammering down on Hercules, but the Mighty One come battling back, dropping Haku with a series of moves, big hip toss, body slam, launching him in the air, dropping Haku down on the mat before a nice stiff clothesline sends the King up and over to the floor, getting the crowd going early on. And again, had this been the Trump crowd, we wouldn't have heard as much sound, but there was actually a good pop here for Hercules clearing the ring of Haku, who finally climbs back onto the apron, but Hercules waiting for him with a vertical suplex back inside, drops a big series of elbows, but rather than make the cover, Hercules turning his attention outside to Bobby Heenan. Hercules begins stalking the brain around the ring, but making that mistake, Haku sneaking up from behind, clotheslining Hercules down on the mat outside. So at this point, I'm going to take a break. As you were watching this, not to give away the finish, but what was your thoughts on how well these guys worked with each other here?
I thought they were trying. It's not like they just laid down, for an opener. This is before the days for newer fans that were used to the Eric Bischoff era, where you started with the hot match first.
Right.
Back then, WWF didn't really start with the hot match. Either did Jim Crockett promotions for the most part.
Crockett liked to build, right? Crockett liked to build, and Vince just kind of threw whatever the hell he felt like that way. It felt like, to me anyway, on the bigger shows. I mean,
right on a show like this, you have two name guys out there, and they were very competent. There was nothing wrong with the matchup, and I clapped when it was over.
Yeah, and I'll get to the finish here in a couple of minutes because I have a couple notes here about my thoughts on the match. My thoughts back then and my thoughts now aren't very much different, honestly. Sometimes you change your opinion throughout time, you mature or whatever, but I still have pretty much same opinion I had back then on this particular match. But Haku drilling Hercules on the floor with a clothesline, taking over, driving Hercules back first into the apron, going to take him back in the ring. And this is a really cool spot. Haku landing a backbreaker on Hercules and just kind of leaves him dangling across his knee, hanging there. And then Hercules never touching the mat. The insane strength of Haku, lifting that 285-pound Hercules back up into the air for his second backbreaker. So impressive, scary strength from Haku, man.
Yeah, I mean, back in those days, the smart community, we had no idea he was a badass. We wouldn't find that out we knew he was a tough guy, but nothing like he was going to turn out to be.
Yeah, the mark in me, Haku, I was taught the last couple of years he's with the company that Haku was the job guy. He was the guy that was, the jobber to the stars, if you will. You call on Haku, and they're so lucky that he was so cooperative to do that, but he wanted to make the money. I think everybody respected that about him and knew he was like silent but deadly. But here's this guy out there losing to pretty much everybody and their father. And he could have beat them all at the same time if he'd wanted to. But the Haku going to work over Hercules here in the ring, work over his back, lock him in a bear hug. Now, Hercules actually going to try to escape, stick his hands inside, begins to escape, but Haku cutting that right off with a big thrust chop to the throat. And the King going to stay on top. Hercules, though, with a surprise running cross body, nets himself a 2 count. And the King, though, right back in control, but misses a reverse crossbody block of his own right off the middle rope. Haku's still flying around a little bit, not as thin as he used to be as an Islander, so he doesn't do the cool moves as much. But Hercules here going to recover. Hercules on the offense, landing that, I love those Hercules jabs. Boom, 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 and the big right hand drops the King on the mat. Hercules running wild with that wrestling 2 knee lift. Hercules was a wrestling 2 at one point, was he not, Jamie?
Yes, he was wrestling 2 or 3, however they wanted to call it that week on television. I mean, 2 tried to call himself wrestling, but they were still calling him 2.
Very confusing, yes.
But yeah, his time with Mr. Wrestling 2, he did learn a thing or two. And that knee lift, Herc was always very good at delivering.
He learned, right? He learned from the best, and he kept that in his repertoire. Not that Hercules had a lot of offensive maneuvers here by the WWF time frame, but he was still using that knee lift. Like I said, I loved his jabs. A couple of big clotheslines you always expect. Nice power slam, going to get him a 2 count, but you got to hook the leg, Jess. Hercules for failing to hook the legs, and Haku kicking out. Is the Mighty One going to the top rope? Now, you know something's wrong here. I've never seen Hercules climb to the top rope before, but he leaps off straight down into a Haku thrust kick to the face. We weren't doing those spots back in this era, especially in the WWF.
Yeah, and there it is born.
The kick or the spot?
The spot.
Yes, I don't know that I saw it done before that. I'm not saying it wasn't. I don't remember anybody ever jumping off into a kick before this, though.
Yeah, I don't either, off the top of my head. But it wasn't a spot that I was always, like looking for back at that time. Even WWF, for the most part, was still slow poke and prod.
Yes.
You had your Savage Steamboat exceptions, or Tito Santana, Rick Martel. You had your exceptions in there, but for the most part, it was still the old WWF formula. Take your time, punch and kick, and stuff like that.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect a spot like this, especially from two of the bigger guys in the company that weren't the most mobile, but give it to them for really putting on a show here. King looking to capitalize after that thrust kick, which is typically his finisher, but instead he's going to go up to the middle rope himself. Haku leaping off for the pretty high elevated diving splash, but nobody home. Hercules taking the advantage of a groggy Haku. The King going to stumble to his feet. Big swing and a clothesline, but whiffs. Hercules ducking, countering right into a back suplex with a bridge, and the Mighty One going to get the 1, 2, 3. Hercules pinning King Haku, 6 minutes and 52 seconds.
And a nice shoulder lift by Hercules.
Yeah.
Whether it been to Jim Cornette, the Assassin, somebody taught him well on how to lift that shoulder for that finish. Maybe even, since Terry Garvin walked him down, I guess Terry Garvin was probably the agent for that match.
Yeah, I don't know if Garvin was the agent of the matches. I think Garvin was more of an agent, like making sure everything's working properly to and from the ring. I don't know that Garvin, but I could be wrong. He could have been the agent for this one, because there's a crossover in agents too. We're going to see. For instance, Pedro Morales, this is his final night in the company as an agent. We'll see him standing at the curtains where they're coming out. So we'll see a few of the agents pop up here. But it's amazing. We see a clean pinfall, middle of the ring. The babyface gets the win. He exacts a little revenge over the Heenan family. The trumpets begin to play. The Mighty Hercules in the instant replay. We see it, just as you pointed out, Jamie. Jesse doing a very good job of calling it like it was, that he saw Hercules get his shoulder up to make sure that, it wasn't a double pin. Hercules is your winner here. And he gets a little revenge, which is a nice way to start off things. Now, I said I had some notes here. I don't have a whole lot of notes, just really a sentence here, but it's the same thought I had at 9 years old that I have here at 45. And that was, for these two guys at their size, and, they're kind of, the big huskier guys, if you will. I thought this is a very competitive, solid match. If you were expecting Steamboat and Savage, I don't know what the hell you're thinking. So, for what it was, I thought these guys came out there and did the best they absolutely could. And there was a couple of spots that surprised me in a good way.
Yeah, they delivered what you just said, right? They delivered what you thought they would deliver, and everybody in the arena was happy.
And I think, they did Hercules dirty. It wasn't like he got over and they buried him, but they turned him babyface. He was going to be like that upper mid-card kind of, that they were hoping he was going to, get that pop. They give him the rub, Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, handshakes, tag teaming at Survivor Series, all this good stuff. And then he's jobbing to Dibiase all across the house shows for the most part. Job to Dibiase on TV. Hook of the tights, but on NBC back in February. So that's over with. So I feel like this was the bone. It was like, okay, we'll let you go over, you get your revenge on Bobby Heenan, but it's going to be with Haku, who, other than the Brooklyn Brawler, was the lowest guy on the totem pole right now, but it's still a win.
Hey, a win at WrestleMania is a good thing.
Especially when you open the show. People are going to remember, right? As we continue on, boy, we got match number 2. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, the Rockers.
All right, we are just moments away from the match that pits the Twin Towers, Akeem and the big boss man managed by Slick against the Rockers. They are Marty Jannetty and you, Shawn Michaels.
I'll tell you what, this is the moment of truth. All the talking is over with. You know, everybody's talking about how the Twin Towers, they can't be beat. I'll tell you what, Twin Towers, Akeem and Big Boss Man, the Rockers, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels are going to show you something today at WrestleMania 5 that you've never seen before. And what's it going to be like when the two big men are trying to catch Grease Lightning, Gene?
All right, big match, big man indeed, Marty.
That's right, we're taking on the biggest team of professional wrestling. And just to come out in one piece would be a victory, but the Rockers want much more than that, of course. We want to come out the winners. And to do that, we're going to have to rock and roll, strut and stroll, slam and jam, and everything that we do best. Tag team specialty, that's what it's going to be. So get ready, because we're ready. We're ready. Grease Lightning, we're coming. Come on, boys, we're ready.
All right, a very important match for both teams. The Twin Towers standing by to meet the Rockers. Right now, let's go back to Gorilla Monsoon and his outspoken colleague, Jesse Ventura.
All right, the Rockers plan to rock and roll, strut and stroll, slam and jam, says Marty Jannetty. It's Grease Lightning tonight against the biggest team in professional wrestling. But you mustn't forget that the Rockers are, in fact, tag team specialists. Woo! Love that line. The Rockers getting ready to rock the Twin Towers here tonight. So contrast of styles, but we won't go into the match yet, but just your thoughts coming in. You knew this was a match of the show. Did you go, why are they booking this? Or did you go, this should be interesting?
Yeah, I was with, why are they booking this? But yeah, damn, this is going to be an interesting matchup. I was fully into it, sitting on the edge of the seat in the Atlantic City Convention Center, watching this one with my best eyes that I had to keep an eye on this one, because I'd been a big Rockers fan since they showed up in the AWA. What was that, 86? You know, Shawn and Marty like to wrestle and they like to party.
Like to party, that's it.
And their stuff in Memphis is heels. Anybody gets a chance, go check that out.
Yeah, do yourselves a favor.
It's great.
It's amazing
stuff.
How natural, it was for them in an era where not everybody just adapted that easily, and they did a great job with that. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, you see that, you can understand why Shawn Michaels is the way he is, a few years later. But it's weird seeing Shawn Michaels, knowing where he went to see him in an interview like this, before the show, and then look into the lost eyes of Marty Jannetty, and that explains a lot going forward.
I thought Marty was always the better promo guy of the two, honestly, but I mean...
Yeah, but he was always lost in the eyes.
Marty was just a lost soul to begin with, apparently.
But what a conflict in body size here. I mean, you had the Rockers, who were definitely a small team.
Right.
And my personal favorite tag team, I know everybody out there loves the Axe and the Smash, but the Twin Towers were my favorite team at that time.
I love it.
Because Boss Man could go.
I love Boss
Man. And One Man Gang, or Akeem, was no slouch himself. And I really thought this team should have gotten gold. But you had so many great tag teams.
So many teams, yeah. Wrong place, wrong time for a lot of these teams.
Exactly. That, they never got the gold. But this was your David and Goliath matchup.
Yeah, very good.
And it didn't disappoint.
No, it doesn't. So we come out of the Rockers promo. I've heard people state that Shawn Michaels was a bit lethargic or maybe on something here during that promo. I didn't see it, and I'm not going to go fishing for it. I couldn't find anything to substantiate that where Shawn said it or Akeem said, or somebody said it in an interview anywhere. So I don't know that to be the fact. And he holds his own here in the ring, as we're going to see here in just a minute. So we fade out from the Rockers promo. We come back to the ring. The Twin Towers already in the ring, but don't worry. Jive Soul Bro still playing as we get to see Akeem dancing. The big boss man looking menacing there with his nightstick and handcuffs in hand. And Slick just being a pimp. Brother, Slick was all over the camera. I love such an underrated. He was so over the top with the character, I think, that he doesn't get the love he deserves. Always in the right place at the right time. Always a great promo. I mean, his early stuff, when he was dark, when he first got there, he was like a darker character. I thought he was excellent as a manager.
I was always a big Slick fan. It shocked me, and I learned it pretty quick, that his daddy was Rufus R. Jones. Rufus taught him very well. I don't know Rufus's experiences as a heel, but he must have been a heel somewhere, because he taught his son how to be a heel. And while Slick didn't really have the body to become a wrestler, he was a very good manager, and there was just two problems with him being a manager: Jimmy Hart and Bobby Heenan.
Ooh, that's a good call too. Yeah, absolutely. That's that will hurt you. You're always going to be the number 3, I guess, at that point, unfortunately. Because you're right, he could have been the star, but nobody was ever going to surpass Bobby. So that was just not going to happen in that era, but out come the Rockers next. Bright yellow tights, matching pink shirts, random zebra shit thrown in there. No backstory here, just two of the top teams in the promotion looking to climb the ranks for a title opportunity. Contrast of styles was never more obvious when you look in the ring. This is going to be a case of power versus speed. Jesse Ventura even stating the longer the match goes, though, the more it favors the Rockers. That may be their only hope of winning this one, I think, is the story they're trying to tell here, because if these big guys get a hold of them, look out Sean and Marty. As the Rockers remove their shirts, the Towers attempt to attack, but the Rockers are able to dodge and exit the ring, forcing the Towers to chase them around ringside. Sean and Marty hopping back inside, catching the Towers with back elbows as they try to climb in the ring. Rockers going to have to keep the hit and run spots going. I felt like, that's a great story. You see it right out of the gate. They're not going to let you wait and see what do they have planned. It's clear, obvious right from the beginning. Stick and move, stick and move. We got to wear these big boys out.
That's exactly, if wrestling was legit, that's what
I'd be doing.
That's exactly. That's what I'd be doing. Stick and move, stick and move. That, the whole time, tire them out so you can get that. And it wasn't just Jesse. I mean, he's the heel, so it was nice to hear that refreshing commentary. But Monsoon, who was a big guy himself, knows that the longer that match goes,
right,
the more in danger the big men are.
Out of gas, absolutely. So finally, referee Joey Morella managing to restore some order. We kick things off with Shawn Michaels versus the Big Boss Man, which I would have loved to have seen in like 1992, but it's still cool here, don't get me wrong. Immediately, Boss Man showing off his strength, seating Shawn Michaels, picking him up and seating him on that top turnbuckle, slapping him across the face. Now, Marty Jannetty going to taunt the Boss Man from the apron to get his attention, and Shawn from behind with a nice-looking flying dropkick off the middle rope into the back of the Big Boss Man, gets him rocked. And Shawn begins running, bouncing again. We're talking about the stick and move, hitting off the ropes, stunning Akeem on the apron. You got to wake up out there, Jive Soul Bro. Looking good here are the Rockers, raising the ire of the Twin Towers. Boss Man going to regroup, and he's going to talk things over with the Doctor of Style, who apparently tells him to tag in the bigger man. Can't believe I'm saying that. But in comes the near 500-pound African Dream, Akeem, dancing his way across the ring as only Akeem can. Shawn going to match those dance steps, though, performing the moonwalk. I had never paid attention to that, but the camera's panned out when they're doing it, so you don't really notice. But Shawn's actually having a dance-off with Akeem and does the moonwalk there.
Yeah, I do remember that. I'm like, here we go. You don't only just need wrestling action in the ring. You got to have a little bit of comedy every now and then. And that was just a great spot. You had your thin Michael Jackson against your, I don't even know who, rerun from What's Happening. That's what was kind of going on there.
Well, to be fair, Shawn Michaels is a little more tan than Michael Jackson, but I'm just saying. As the Rockers take over, quick tags, nice double teaming, catching the Boss Man sleeping on the apron with stereo punches. Rockers going to begin to work the arm, quick tags again with the big man Akeem here. African Dream trying for a big avalanche splash in the corner, but nobody home, and the Rockers right back to the arm, going to stay on him, work him over. Now, I'd work for the leg, but we're not going to talk psychology here because we're going to continue to move along. Marty missing Akeem, tagging to the Boss Man, blind tag to the Big Boss Man, and Marty gets sandwiched, smashed in between the two Twin Towers. And I go back to wrestling fans again. I wrote oof here in my notes, but that garners a nice response. We're going to get a few big pops here from the wrestling crowd during this match.
We're now up to the spot where the heels have to take back over because it's been like a pinball game going on there, right, just back and forth and everything. So now you got to let the heels regain their heat, slow it back down again, because they also know if they keep up that pace, they're going down. Even though they don't need that match to go long, they got to slow it down a little bit and regroup. Something I noticed today on television, when Boss Man came in, he had lost a ton of weight.
Yes, right.
But it looks like he put a lot of that weight back on by this time, and he wasn't quite as fluid in the ring, so he needed to catch his breath and restart that match all over again, from a strategy point.
No, absolutely. And luckily for them, the heels take over, which means they control the pace. Now, Boss Man landing that patented leg straddle spot across the back of Jannetty's head on the middle rope there. Akeem coming in with a similar version as the Towers now in full control. Akeem whipping the Big Boss Man into Marty in the corner. Big avalanche splash, and Akeem going to follow up, splashing himself into the boss man. Double sandwich on poor Marty against the buckles there. Jannetty, though, still has some fight in him, firing back, but just no match for the big boss man here, the former prison guard. Tagging out, but holds Jannetty from the apron. Akeem charging at him, but Marty able to free himself, and Akeem smashing into his partner, the boss man, instead. Down goes the boss man on the apron, and Marty able to crawl through the legs of the African Dream and make the hot tag to partner Shawn Michaels. Here we go. It's going to get Bonzo Gonzo now. Shawn leaping in over the top rope with a drop kick on Akeem as the Rocker's going to team up, whipping Akeem back and forth, corner to corner, and Akeem bouncing out into that double shoulder tackle off the middle rope. What a cool spot that was. They got the momentum going, that which explained why Akeem kind of bounced out, if you will, and then they hit that double team move.
Exactly. They're tag team experts. That's why they pull that kind of maneuver off.
Tag team specialists, in fact, Jamie.
Specialists. Okay,
even better. There you go. I like the spot, though. They hit the double team move, and they both make the cover, and Akeem's so big he kicks them both off as he fires back, and here it is, man. We talked about the crowd making some noise here. Shawn Michaels coming off a rebound, and Akeem just clotheslines his freaking head right off his just the nastiest clothesline. Bradshaw, Stan Hansen, I hate to say it, man, but eat your heart out on this one. I mean, I know a lot of it was Shawn bumping, and Akeem's even said, because a lot of people, he said people come to him and ask him, what the hell did Shawn do? Would he piss you off? So he goes, he didn't even know what they were talking about until he went back and watched the video, and he goes, I think that was just all Shawn bumping. I didn't have no heat with him, but I mean, that was a nasty clothesline. That
was the example of two experts doing what they do best.
Yeah, and the big man doing the big man spot, and Shawn taking that bump like no other there. Absolutely great call. And the crowd, again, popping huge for that one because it looks like he killed him. With Shawn down and out on the floor, the big boss man tagging in and going straight up top, looking to capitalize with a big splash. But Michaels out of the way, the boss man missing, landing hard on the mat. Shawn Michaels wisely going to capitalize here by jumping on top. Just make the cover. Don't get cute. But again, only gets a 2 count here. Not quite done yet are the Twin Towers. Michaels going up top for a Hurricane Rana, jumping up in the air and catching Boss Man around the head with that Hurricane Rana spot, but Boss Man's too big to go over. So Jannetty comes in from behind. Again, another great double team spot. Jannetty comes in and does the old schoolboy trip, and Boss Man falls backwards, Shawn landing on top. So they continue. Just some really fun stuff here that you didn't see from any other tag teams. I mean, anywhere.
Yeah, it was great ring psychology.
It was like they were always waiting. One was waiting for the other one. If they don't succeed, I'm going to come in and help them because we realize these guys are twice our size.
I said it earlier on. It was the perfect David versus Goliath matchup. All 4 of these guys could work. I know the Gang took a lot of grief, especially in his 90s run in WCW about how bad he was. But once Gang got up into like 1984, for a guy that you're covering it with ICW with Steve Crawford, they more or less just drug one-man gang in off the street. Isn't that the correct story?
He was pretty much working the outlaw mud shows, as Jim Cornette would call them, and they just looked at him and said, oh, we might be able to do something with a guy this big.
He came a long way, and by this, he's the best he'll ever be, or the best he ever was at this point. Yeah, putting these 2 teams together was a great idea. In retrospect.
Right, yeah, no. I mean, the Rockers had been feuding with the Brainbusters, so obviously I was a little, why didn't we get that at WrestleMania? But they were moving on from that, and they wanted to give us something different. Everybody, all of these cities, all the major cities had already seen that match. They wanted to give you something different for WrestleMania. Everybody's already seen that, even though it would be good again. I mean, here you get something completely different. And I think, again, like you said, in hindsight, in retrospect, this turns out to be phenomenal. A great, whoever booked it, they're a genius because it succeeds in what it needs to do as they take Boss Man down with a double team, then running across the ring, double drop kick, sending Akeem on the apron down to the apron there. Both Rockers then going to the top rope, looking for a double missile drop kick on the Boss Man. Now Marty going to jump off a tad bit before Shawn, and thus Marty connects, but luckily Shawn lands on top of the Boss Man anyway, so it kind of looks like it works out, right?
Yeah, but hey, Jesse catches it on commentary, and so did Gorilla. Shawn kind of whiffed on it, but he did land on top.
Right.
So no harm, no foul.
No, it still works out at the end of the day, and they get a near fall. Akeem again then to break that one up, but he was going to have to. That was a hell of a spot there. Had they both connect, I don't know if we'd ever seen something of that magnitude at that time on somebody that size. So it was still fun to see here as the tag team specialists looked like they finally have cracked the foundation of the towers. Or have they? Akeem tossing Marty Jannetty to the floor. Michaels going back up top by his lonesome. Uh-oh, Sean, not a good idea. Launching off with what looked to be a flying Hurricane Rana. But Big Boss Man catching Shawn Michaels in midair and turning it into a nasty spinning power bomb, I guess you would call it. And then tagging in Akeem for the cleanup. Air Africa, 747, the big splash down on poor Shawn Michaels, who is so far the MVP of the night. Shawn taking some bad bumps here as the Twin Towers will get the 1, 2, 3, and the match goes 8 minutes and 5 seconds. I think it 8 minutes. That was good.
Which was actually a surprise. I mean, on my scorecard before I went into WrestleMania, I had the Rockers coming out on top on that one. But because they were feuding with the Brainbusters, and I'm not going to ruin the rest of the show, but you could kind of see where things were going to go. And in order to get them back in that title picture, I thought for sure they were going to take the victory in this one. So, but hey, it was a nice surprise on my part to see the Twin Towers come out on top in this one.
Well, they're your favorite team of the era.
Absolutely.
So I think, this is, probably Vince and even Hogan maybe in their ear throwing them a bone too. Hey, they did us well. Clearly Hogan loved Boss Man. He hasn't even been in the company a year, and Hogan's agreeing to do suplexes with him off the top of cages. Hogan wasn't doing that with anybody. He's working Boss Man right now. So it kind of makes sense that they go over. You don't want the Rockers beating the Big Boss Man while he's working Hulk Hogan in cage matches around the loop. But at the same time, they did the main event show together in the Twin Towers and the Mega Powers. I think this is like, and again, Vince loves to tell that story. No matter how good you are, the little man cannot beat the big man, period. So that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. So, but what a fun match. Rockers showing how good they could be against any style of tag team. It wasn't just the Brainbusters who were fundamentally sound, scientific in the ring, whatever you want to call it, or, the light heavyweight styles of like the Rougeaus or something like that. They took on the super heavyweights here. Loved the Akeem caricature. Loved everything about the Big Boss Man. Some nasty spots by the Twin Towers here. Looked like they killed Shawn Michaels multiple times, drawing many a big pops from the fans every time as well. But the Rockers will continue, as we know, to have awesome matches across the board year after year. But the Twin Towers, like you said, clearly more on the horizon for them. They're going to be working with Demolition into the summer some.
Yeah, and I wish I was going to be here to do a watch along with that, because they are some entertaining matches with those four guys, because all four guys could go. There wasn't a bad worker among them.
Well, I'm looking forward to all of that. And Jammie Ward, I got to thank you for kicking this off the right way, sharing a few more memories of rolling into town and being part down there on the boardwalk and going in your seats, and just poor Rockin Robin and everything else kicking off with the Mighty Hercules getting that big win over the Heenan family and a really fun tag team match that on paper didn't look like a whole lot, but who are we to doubt the Rockers and the Twin Towers?
Absolutely, yeah. I ended up getting home, I guess, 10 or 11 o'clock, because it's only like an hour and a half ride.
Oh, okay.
From Philly, depending on how fast you're going if the cops are out. And my dad was driving. My dad had the lead foot. And I got home in time to pop that VCR tape in to watch Raging Cajun, Ric Flair's Ricky Steamboat.
That was, they had an amazing night. Nearly an hour.
They went head to head with WWF.
I think they went nearly an hour, if I remember correctly.
For the final time before the cable network said, all right, that's enough. No more cutting in other people's pay-per-views.
Right.
That's it. We're not going to allow it anymore.
Not playing this game anymore. No, because we covered that in the first year here on the Grenade when we covered NWA 89, and now we're looking at the other side of it. So it's really fun to be able to do both sides, and it's really always a blast to have you, Jammie, whether it's on regional wrestling or the Unreal show, or you do the other ship, of course, and now here back on the Grenade as part of WrestleMania 5. It's such a great time and a great era, and I remember it so fondly. I mean, it was really peaking here in 89 for me, the WWF, the stories anyway, if you will, and whatnot. So it's just a great time, and to have, a few people on here that remember it fondly in different ages and different ways. But it's just a great era, man. And I want to thank you so much for stepping in and kicking this thing off the right way, brother.
My pleasure as always. I just love to talk wrestling, so I can talk any subject. You pick one, I'll come on, I'll talk with you. We'll have a good time for an hour or so.
Absolutely, always. Thank you once again, Jammie. We'll see you soon. Thanks, man.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Relive the glory days of Memphis wrestling with the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast. Each week, we go back in time to review USWA Championship Wrestling from the 1990s, episode by episode. Join us for watch-alongs, behind-the-scenes stories, and exclusive interviews with people who were there and lived it. Whether you grew up watching it or you're discovering it for the first time, this podcast is your ringside seat to Memphis wrestling history. It's all a part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Listen now at USWApodcast.com.
With the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and his bodyguard, Virgil, later this afternoon, WrestleMania 5 against Brutus the Barber Beefcake. A man who knows a little bit about strutting and a lot about cutting, if you know what I mean.
Listen, little man, first of all, I have anxiously anticipated this day for some time. WrestleMania 5, because you see, out in the crowd today, there are going to be people that are members of my club, the highly elite. I'm talking about people like Donald Trump and Henry Kravitz, people with clout, people with money, people that are going to be here today to see me demolish you, Beefcake. Oh, yeah, Beefcake. You are looking at a man who spends thousands of dollars being the finely groomed individual that I am. And if you think you're going to put those grubby paws of yours on this head of hair, you better think again. Because today you meet your destiny, that being defeated by the greatest athlete in the World Wrestling Federation, the $1 Million Man. As is evident by this $1 million worth of gold and diamonds around my waist. It shines like I do, brighter than any star in the World Wrestling Federation.
Okay, let's go back to Gorilla Monsoon.
All right, guys, we just keep rolling on. Many more matches to tackle, so we bring in our next guest, former writer and editor for WWE Magazine, longtime wrestling historian, researcher, covering multiple eras of the business. He is the host of the Shut Up and Wrestle podcast, author of several books, including Blood and Fire, the unbelievable real-life story of wrestling's original Sheik, and most recently, Irresistible Force, the life and times of one Gorilla Monsoon. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brian R. Solomon to the Grenade. Welcome, Brian.
Hi, Ray. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for including me.
Oh, my God. Thanks for being a part of this. We just briefly talked offline, and just a big era in the world of professional wrestling. And you cover many eras, but this is one of them for certain. And it's hopefully it's going to be a fun time here talking some of the matches here in the early part of the program. We're coming out of Rockers and Twin Towers, and we are rolling right now into the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, taking on Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And so before we get into the next stretch of the pay-per-view, Brian, please tell everyone where they can find your work and how they can purchase your latest masterpiece, Irresistible Force.
Sure. Well, my podcast is Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian R. Solomon. It's part of the Arcadian Vanguard Network. You can get it wherever you get podcasts. It's also got a Patreon associated with it, patreon.com/shutupandwrestle, and there's a lot of free and premium content on there. The book, as you mentioned, Irresistible Force, The Life and Times of Gorilla Monsoon, it won the Observer Award, Best Book of 2025.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been on the Amazon Top 10 Wrestling Books ever since it came out last September. And, so you can get it anywhere. If you want a signed copy, I'm selling those directly. You can either find me on social media or email me at brianrsolomon@yahoo.com, and I can get one out to you.
Please, everybody, do yourselves a favor and check out The Life and Times of Gorilla Monsoon. Of course, Gorilla had an amazing career in the ring, behind the scenes, and of course at the commentary booth. And that brings us back here to WrestleMania 5. We just heard Tony Schiavone interview the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, just moments ago. And to add a little context there, just recently in the last few weeks on TV, Teddy has debuted that beautiful $1 Million title belt. What are your memories of first seeing the $1 Million belt?
Well, it was funny to me because, as we all know, what preceded this was that DiBiase had tried to buy the championship from Hulk Hogan. He tried to buy the world title. When Hulk Hogan turned him down, he bought it from Andre the Giant. That didn't work out. Jack Tunney wouldn't allow that, vacates the title. So what does DiBiase do? He just makes his own championship belt and declares himself the $1 Million champion. So, I mean, I thought it was very funny. Of course, as a kid, and I hated him as a kid. I remember thinking, this is ridiculous. It's not a real title. How could he do this? But now I'm just like, this is a lot of fun. And to be honest, it's probably just as legitimate as any of the other titles.
Well,
so.
that is true. And, you know, like Gorilla says, who did he beat to win that thing, Jess? He beat the banker, Monsoon, of course. And beautiful belt. You know, I'm not a belt collector. I know there's a lot of belt collectors out there. I'm not one of them. However, I've said multiple times, if there was one belt I would love to own, it would be one of those replicas of the $1 million title. I used to joke in my 20s that I would wear that thing into a bar. I would love to have just sat that thing in front of me at a bar and let people talk. That would have been good times.
I remember the vignettes when he was having it made. Do you remember that? He was going into the jeweler. I think it was a jeweler here in
Betteridge. Yeah, the Betteridge.
In Greenwich,
Vince's.
I think.
Yeah, it's Vince's.
And he was going in there and having it all made up and everything. It was fun.
He had the evil scientist look when they didn't show it yet in the vignette, because according to Bruce, the first one, Vince scoffed at. He's like, "What is that crap, pal? Go make me a better one." So they weren't able to show it in the vignette, but Dibiase, the camera on his face, like it was just mad scientist stuff.
I wonder what the original one looked like. Has it ever been seen?
I've never seen it. I don't think Vince accepted it. You know, it was a different time. Of course, now Vince would be like, all right, well, give me that one. We'll put it in the vault gimmick or something like that. But I think back then Vince was just like, I don't want that piece of crap. I want this, you know? So, of course, they unveil it on the Brother Love show, and we're off to the races here. A few weeks later, Dibiase comes ringside. And who does he show off the belt to but one Donald Trump front and center there? And I often wondered, why Donald never had himself like, I am president champion, and got himself like a president championship belt. But
don't give him any ideas. It's probably coming.
Never say never, right? In the world of Mr. Trump there. Well, we get Dibiase ringside. He's got Virgil with him, the bodyguard. He's got the $1 million title belt. And out comes Brutus the Barber Beefcake in his brand new black and gold attire. Not a matching bag of tricks there, though. Still red, white, and blue on the... So Brutus comes out. No real backstory, like a lot of these matches at WrestleMania 5. But they do give, because it's Beefcake, because it's Dibiase, they give him a little promo time on the TV coming in. And Beefcake does get a good line in. I don't know if he came up with it on his own. Probably not. But he said, this is for... I'm going to make you pay, Teddy, for all the times that you took that money and humiliated the fans with your money, because now it's my turn to humiliate you for the fans and cut your hair. And Dibiase's response, I would let you cut my dog's hair. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Beaver's just coming in this thing to try to humiliate the $1 million man. And the bell sounds, they get going. Beefcake actually going to attack Dibiase here because Dibiase won't let him touch the title belt. I should mention, non-sanctioned belt is not on the line for this one. So it's a fun back and forth matchup that's going to lead to Dibiase locking in the $1 million dream at one point late in the match. But they're going to continue on back and forth, yada, yada, and they will spill to the floor. And at that point, obviously, you kind of feel something's coming here, because we've seen this before in the world of the WWF during this time period when the guys are on the outside on the floor. So Teddy tries to post Beefcake, but it's Barber who shoves Dibiase into the steel post. And then Brutus finally going to get his hands on Virgil. Virgil had interfered earlier in the match, tripping Brutus up. So Brutus wanting a little revenge here on Virg instead of paying attention to the referee's count. And of course, the next thing we know, it's a double count out here in the World Wrestling Federation.
Well, you know, the thing about this match, too, which we have to say, is Dibiase had been around in the WWF for almost 2 years at this point. Mm-hmm. And this was kind of like the beginning of look, a heel in the main event only has so much of a shelf life. Yeah. And this was the beginning of him kind of dropping down, not being, an afterthought, but he's not in the title picture anymore. He's a little bit lower. He's like upper mid card, just outside the main event. The kind of guy that you could put into a main event whenever you needed to, but he's not, before this, he had been mixing it up with Hogan and Andre and even Randy Savage in title matches and things. And now it's like he seems to be just a little bit of a rung lower. And in the old days, this would have been the time when he probably would have moved on to another territory, Yes. But now there's really not many places to go. You can go to WCW, I guess, but it's like, this was the place where the money was to be made. Absolutely. And this is what people were running into. It's like, you want to be here forever? Well, you can't be in the main events forever. Yeah. Most people.
Well, Ted had it made when he got in there, right? He got the limos and the first class and all the expense money and eating at the finest of dineries, and is that a word? I don't know. But fine dining for Ted Dibiase and all this good stuff. And it's like you said, though, you're feuding with Hogan and Savage for over a year, basically, the storyline with the belt, and then working with Hogan, working with Savage, the main event of SummerSlam, the main event of WrestleMania 4, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. Right. You buy the number 30 spot at the Rumble 89.
Well, you know what happened? he was the top heel in the company, and now Randy Savage is the top heel in the company.
Right. It's time to move down a peg. So, but they give him Hogan's brother. So, I mean, that's kind of like, in their eyes, they're throwing Dibiase the bone. Well, you're working Brutus Beefcake, who will main event later here in 89.
Yeah, Beefcake was one of the lead baby faces, no doubt. And Dibiase was still one of the lead heels, but he just wasn't the lead heel anymore.
Right. I feel like they kept trying to give Ted something to do, though. So he's working with Hogan and Savage. That kind of ends. They do the Hercules gimmick, where he tries to purchase Hercules as his slave. And that works for a couple months. And now they give him the $1 million belt. So while he's not feuding with Brutus, and he's just on, it's kind of weird because he was main eventing WrestleMania last year. This year he's on a throwaway match, for better or worse, because there's really no backstory to it. And we get 10 minutes of time, though, which is more than most of the matches on the show.
That's true. And I want to say something about the Hercules Dibiase thing, too, if I can.
Please.
It was a funny thing that the WWF did in this period, that they seemed to be in their own world, where they started to act like the wrestlers worked for the managers instead of that the managers worked for the wrestlers. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
The managers owned the wrestlers. Yes. They could trade them like they were baseball players. And, and it was such a weird reversal. Like, no, wait a minute. The manager works for the wrestler. The wrestler hires the manager. But this was a weird WWF thing.
Yeah, like Jimmy Hart. I got your contracts, baby, to the Hart Foundation. And he gives it to the Rougeaus. I don't know.
Right. They treated them like they were owners, like of a sports franchise or something.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So these guys do the double count out shtick on the floor. Brutus trying to get a hold of Virgil. Dibiase sliding back into the ring to attack the Barber after the match. Beefer able to clear the ring once more, though it never really got going for me. Dibiase really didn't get in any of his signature spots in this thing. Brutus really doesn't have any signature spots very much. So, I mean, it was just there. It was like, we're going to give you 10 minutes because you're Ted DiBiase, and we're going to give you 10 minutes because you carry Hogan's stuff. And that was pretty much what it felt like for me here, because there was not a whole lot of content to the match, which is unusual for a DiBiase match. And actually, Brutus had just wrestled Rude on Saturday night's main event a few weeks prior, and I thought that match was much better with the Barber. That might have been the best thing I've seen Beefcake do for quite a while anyway, since he's been teaming with Valentine anyway. So it was just really weird. It never really clicked for me, these two.
I think one thing that you got to remember about the early WrestleManias, and it helps if you were around at that time, because it was so rare to see big stars against big stars on television back then.
Yeah.
We're talking 1989. So there were just a couple of pay-per-views. There was Saturday night's main event a few times a year. That's all you got. Weekly TV, you never saw it. So there was this thing about WrestleMania in the early years where it's like, it was such a big deal that we're going to match up the biggest stars against the biggest stars, and it's going to be on TV. And that's all you needed. It was like, for the average fan, it was so exciting. We're going to see Ted DiBiase against Brutus Beefcake on TV in my living room. Like, that's all you needed. You didn't need to have these high concept storylines for every single match.
No, and with 14 matches, that would be almost improbable to create some sort of a backstory. I guess I just wanted more for DiBiase, you know what I mean? But he's coming out of a long run with stories, so it's time to just work the Barber and be happy. I'm sure he got a nice payday out of it, so he's got that going. And he's got the $1 million belt, right? So
got his own belt.
Well, Beef are going to clear the ring with the hedge clippers there before DiBiase can do any damage. So we move on. They move on. They're trying to get things rolling here. We've got a lot of matches left on the card. So in between, we quickly cut away to Lord Alfred Hayes. Oh, my word. At the WrestleMania brunch. This might be the first year. I mean, they did the 5K at WrestleMania 4 as well. But I don't remember them having a brunch. I can't say if they did or didn't. But the Bushwhackers eating in Bushwhacker fashion here. So comedy bit, pal. And that's all to set up the next matchup featuring... It's the Fabulous Rougeaus brothers, yes. And taking on Luke and Butch, the Bushwhackers. Of course, All-American Boys, my favorite 80s wrestling theme. So I get to hear a little bit of that as they make their way to the ring. And a very underrated team, not just as heel workers in the ring, but those promos over my head as a 9-year-old, man. I mean, truly over my head. I didn't really appreciate the Rougeaus for as good as they were until I was in my late teens, when I was like, what did he say? What's going on here? And you really understand all of the, especially Jacques, it's like, I think Bruce said they when they turned the Rougeaus heel, they didn't understand it first. And then they told Jacques, just be yourself. And they told Raymond, just be like Jacques.
Well, I love that they reference Barry Manilow in the Rougeau Brothers theme, which as a little kid, my parents loved Barry Manilow. So I grew up with Barry Manilow. And I remember thinking like, well, what's wrong with Barry Manilow? Why are they knocking Barry? But the thing about when the Rougeaus turned like this, I was still a pretty new wrestling fan. And I remember like heel turns, I hadn't seen a lot of them. Right. And like you said, this one was very subtle. Like, was there even a thing that they did that turned them? I don't remember.
It was just the little digs. Like, they wished everybody a happy Memorial Day on Independence Day. I mean, just the little things. And you go back.
I had never seen that before. And it was really weird because I was watching it in real time. And like you said, in my head, I'm going like, they haven't changed all that much, but there's something about them now where they're obnoxious, and they weren't really obnoxious before. It was really blowing my mind at the time.
This was another one where there was Bushwhackers had just come in at the end of the year of '88, so they've only been here about 3 months or so. But this was one where you give somebody a microphone and they make a little magic to try to create a backstory, where there is no backstory. And again, it goes back to the Rougeaus here. I love the promos they were cutting, just the insert promos they were cutting to quote unquote build this matchup. Rougeaus upset that those no good foreign bushwhackers are coming to their country to steal their jobs and take their money. So the Rougeaus vowing to send the bushwhackers back to their country, back to New Zealand. So you got to love the snide nonsense there of the Rougeau brothers. But I feel like that was not a Vince thing. That was not a Patterson thing. That was just the Rougeaus and Jimmy Hart coming up with something to give some sort of reason, I guess, behind this thing.
Yeah, and those guys back then, they did that so well. They were able to just pivot like that and just talk and get heat going, especially the heels. So, how can you complain? And the Bushwhackers, I mean, I wrote something for PWI recently. I wrote a column about Danhausen and how, there's a place for comedy wrestlers. Right. It's just sometimes you've got to know what to do with them. And there's a reason. Look, the Bushwhackers were there for years, I think like 8 years. They never were given the title. And there was a reason for that. That wasn't their spot. There were points where they might have been the most popular tag team in the company, but they still knew, like, these are not the guys we put our titles on. You know what I mean? Like, you got to know how to use them best in their role.
Right. And the Bushwhackers more or less were built for the kids, right? And they were over. Right. They're very over here. A lot of people on this high rolling crowd, 50% high rollers here, they're not making a lot of noise for a lot of these matches. Bushwhackers are one of the gimmicks that they really get over with the crowd here during this pay-per-view. So I give that to them. Now, I was 9-10 years old when the Bushwhackers were there doing their thing. They were over. I never latched onto the Bushwhackers. They were one of my least favorite things to see on the TV screen, but I will never deny the popularity that they had in the ring. And when they first get here, I'm very surprised because, breaking down TV week to week, you notice a lot of things. And I was very surprised when they got here. They came to work. The first several weeks, maybe a couple months of their tenure here, they're doing wrestling moves. They're taking real bumps. They're doing a lot of things they don't have to do later on when they realize that's not our shtick here. That's not what we're here for. We'll leave that to the Hart Foundation. We'll leave that to, the Rockers or whatever the case may be. So they find their niche and they hit the ring. They grab poor Jimmy Hart's coat. They're trying to rip it. The Rougeaus come in to attack to save Jimmy's coat because, God forbid, that gets ripped, baby. From there, it's a little do-si-do or whatever the case may be. The Rougeaus get bumped and knocked out of the ring. So the early part of this match, which it doesn't go very long, but it's just a lot of miscommunication from the Rougeaus, Jacques dropping a knee on Brother Raymond and comedy spots, if you will, and things like that. But of course, eventually, the Rougeaus, being crafty heels that they are, they do take over. And I don't know, if you save this kind of stuff in your memory banks, but they were excellent in the heel tag teaming. And they didn't have to do that a lot in Montreal. They weren't like the heels, right? I mean, they'd worked a lot of heels, so they learned a lot of things and second-generation athletes and things of that nature. But at the same time, it just worked so perfectly for them. They just adopt this heel persona and go in the ring, and they work like masterful heels. I mean, asshole heels.
Well, this is the thing. And as we know, back then we had an embarrassment of riches. We didn't know how good we had it. Every guy was a top-flight worker. Right. They had all come from all this experience, working, going on the road, working all these different places. The Rougeaus had been wrestling since the 70s. I mean, I think that Raymond went back a little further than Jacques did. Yeah. And the Bushwhackers, of course, we know they were the sheep herders. They went back to the 60s, those guys in the business. And they knew what they were doing. Comedy act or not, all four of these guys were superlative workers. That's what you got back then.
Well, the action goes on. The Rougeaus doing their double team shtick. At one point, just going to catch Butch sleeping, knocking him off the apron, to which Gorilla complains, like, what's he doing over there knocking the guy off the apron? To which Jesse points out, oh, but it was okay when the Rockers did it earlier, Monster. You always love when Jesse always told it like it was. I love that.
Right, yeah. And it always worked because Jesse usually made sense. He wasn't wrong, whereas with Heenan, he would say things that were so ridiculous you couldn't even,
Bobby
you
was a
couldn't
different
justify. Right, it was a different thing. You couldn't justify. But with Jesse, you would go, well, he's not wrong. I got to say, he's not wrong.
So there's a spot in here. I did not see the spot growing up. I'd never noticed the spot. Somebody pointed it out, and they made it into a little GIF online a few years back. And there's a point in the match where Jacques, I think it's Raymond, actually tries to slam Luke, and Luke just intentionally grabs hold of Raymond's junk and gives it a jerk, like a rub and tug. And I mean, it's right there on the camera. The cameraman catches it perfectly. And that's not, I'm trying to find your leg. That was legitimately Luke. I don't know what that was about. Now I'm thinking these guys have been in this company for 3 months and they're already comfortable enough to go into WrestleMania and do these kind of, silly things and whatnot. But do you remember that spot? Have you seen that spot since? And did you notice it back then? Because I did not.
I got to tell you, this is the first it's ever been pointed out to me, honestly. Okay. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Back then, those guys would always be trying to break each other in the ring. They would do silly things like that. And it probably is a testament, just these guys, even though they're new to the company, they're so comfortable in the wrestling business, in the ring. They're so, it's second nature to them to just rib each other during matches and do stuff like, it probably just wasn't even something they gave a thought to. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, yeah, we're just having fun in here,
Could you imagine?
Like, especially because back then you got to remember, Ray, we live in a world now where these wrestlers today, they grew up as kids watching WrestleMania. They have such awe about this, the grandest stage of them all. These old school guys didn't think that way yet. It was just another payday for them. It was a big payday, but it was another show. Like, they didn't have the awe. Oh, we're at WrestleMania, nobody was tearing up in the ring in 1989 at WrestleMania. You know what I mean?
I thought it was pretty comfortable. I mean, if you know Luke's personality, but pretty comfortable in the ring to do that on a pay-per-view 3 months into your tenure here in the company. But absolutely, it gets by for many decades, so, but it's out there. A lot of people have posted that as a little meme gimmick. So late in the match, the Rougeaus continue the double teaming. They do the cool spot with the abdominal stretch. Raymond flips in over the top rope, lands that savate kick, and they begin to celebrate with a big Rougeau hug. Meanwhile, the Bushwhackers have had enough of all the double teaming, and while Jacques is being escorted back out of the ring, Raymond turns around right into the battering ram, and of course the double gutbuster going to end this thing. Down go the Rougeau brothers. Bushwhackers going over, which really saddened me at the time. Match goes only 5 minutes and 11 seconds, and that's pretty much the writing on the wall for the Rougeau's future here in the company. I feel like, as far as a push goes, right?
Yeah, they're being used to put over the new tag team act. That because in later years we would know, like, the Bushwhackers usually did not come out on top. They were the feel-good tag team, but they usually lost. And they were in the position that the Rougeaus are now in this match. But here they're new. They need to get some wins. They need to, come across as an important team when they first come in.
It felt like I'm not going to say it was actually going to happen, but it felt like the Rougeaus were going to be pushed into an upper-tier tag team heel spot before Arn and Tully get here. And now here's Arn and Tully, and it's like, well, we got a new toy.
That's a good point, yes.
So the Rougeaus just kind of finish up their feud with the Hart Foundation by the end of the fall of '88, and there's really nothing left for them. And they're going to pretty much spend the next 10 months off and on working with the Bushwhackers, which may or may not be why they put in their notice there after they worked Rumble 90. I'm sure they had fun with them out there. I mean, they worked them 1,000 times over the next year. They're going to see him at Survivor Series. They're going to see him at the Rumble. So they're going to see him quite often here, even on pay-per-view. But Rougeaus still have some good matches coming with the Rockers over the summer. And the Bushwhackers, well, they are here, and they have won a match here on pay-per-view, no less. As it's got to be a rib here. Sean Mooney trying to interview the Bushwhackers in the aisleway on the way out. And the Bushwhackers having some fun licking and whacking their way on Mr. Mooney there. And Sean, less than a year into the company, he just takes it like a man.
Yeah, well, he's a good sport. I had him on my podcast recently, and he enjoyed all this stuff. And they played off of that he was such a straight-laced, like, news anchor type of guy that you could have fun with that.
Yeah, and then he would do those Coliseum videos. Yeah. That happened, Sean.
Him and Lord Alfred, not the greatest broadcast team of all time.
Not the greatest broadcast team, but you know what? It takes me back to a certain time in my life, so it makes me smile anyway.
Yes.
So, well, it's boom, boom, boom. As the Bushwhackers lick their way backstage, poor Sean Mooney, we go right into our next match. No music yet, unfortunately, for this gentleman, but he does have new attire, debuting brand new gear here at WrestleMania 5. It is Mr. Perfect, no longer Kurt Hennig, just Mr. P. And he's coming down in that lime green, that neon green singlet, had wore the trunks up until this point. So brand new look, and that would become a thing later on. Everybody get that new gear for WrestleMania. But like you said, it was just another payday here back in the day. But Mr. Perfect waited for the big one to kind of debut the next piece of the puzzle into becoming truly perfect.
And he was very new in the company, just come over from the AWA.
Yeah.
And now we're into this era now where every wrestler who comes in is going to be repackaged into something else, like right around this time, We'd seen it early here and there, like the Honky Tonk Man or, the Big Boss Man was a big one. But now we're getting to where it's happening with everybody. Yeah. And like you said, the no music thing is interesting because I remember this era where did DiBiase have the music yet?
Not yet. Nope.
Okay. Because, again, not everyone had music. It was still kind of special. And then what would you say, like by about 90, 91, 90. Certainly everyone. Yeah. Like I remember one guy who came in 91 who didn't have music was IRS. And I remember thinking that was very, very rare at that time to have a guy with no music. But it's kind of, you're looking at it going like, well, nowadays, of course, he'd have music. But back then, you're like, well, what kind of music is this guy going to have? He's a tax collector. Like what?
Purchased the Steel Cage Challenge Nintendo game. His music on there was typewriter. It was a typewriter. Ding.
I'm surprised they didn't do that on TV, right?
Yeah, I mean, no, very good call though. Yeah, a lot of the heels. It took longer to get some of the heels, and Duggan even didn't have music till 90, which is crazy.
That's right. Think about. Yeah, but, Andre the Giant never had music.
But who did have music here was the Blue Blazer, another cool theme of the time. Owen Hart running his way down to, he said, "Get the hell out there, pal. We got to get in the window here." So Owen rushing down to ringside, backflipping his way into the ring. And I just caught this for the first time. You got all these guys out here. You got the two Ultimate Ribbers, and I'd never noticed this before. And no matter how many times I've seen this pay-per-view, which I've been watching it since 1989, I was renting it 4 or 5 times a year as a kid. And just for the first time, Owen backflips into the ring, turns around, looks at Hennig. Hennig says something. I don't know what he says. And Owen just gets this big, giant grin on his face. And I go, makes sense. The two Ultimate Ribbers in the ring together. And Hennig, whatever he said, it made Owen smile. So I got a kick out of that.
Also, 2 brand new characters going against each other. These are 2 guys that had only been in there a few months. And so it's kind of an interesting matchup in that way because you don't immediately look at it and go, okay, well, this guy will probably win. That guy will probably win. Like it's a tough call.
Well, up until this point, Kurt Hennig's record has been unblemished. I guess you could call it a perfect record as they get going. Hennig going to hip toss Owen across the ring, but he tries it again, and Owen does a little spin out. You didn't see that a lot, especially in New York back then. Owen Hart kind of spinning through the hip toss, landing a beautiful standing drop kick, sending Mr. P flying over the top rope perfectly, I might add. And I get maybe my very first baseball slide drop kick here from the Blazer. Very creative moves from Owen back in the day.
Yeah, he really stood out. I remember that. So influential. I think like Rob Van Dam has said what an influence he was on him. And seeing somebody, like you said, in the WWF at this time, he really, really stood out.
They talk about the grueling schedule, and that's no joke, especially when you're moving like an Owen Hart. And I saw it happen to Bam Bam Bigelow before this. I mean, they come in a house of fire. They're busting out moves you've never seen. They're moving at a different speed than everybody else in the promotion. And I think the schedule catches up to him. And Owen's going to get a groin injury at Survivor Series. And I don't know for the rest of this Blazer run if he's ever the same again. He's not the same Blue Blazer as he was prior to the Survivor Series. He's still doing a few cool things, but he's not moving at the same speed. He's not doing as many cool things. And I'm not trying to crap on him or anything here, but it's very noticeable what his style was prior to and then what his style was coming, say, here in 1980. And he's working Mr. Perfect. So on paper, this is the sleeper match of the night, right? You're Kurt Hennig and Owen Hart. Owen Hart was stealing his show up in Calgary before he came here. And Kurt Hennig was just, easily my favorite guy to watch, period. I mean, and so to have them in there, you're expecting this barn burner awesome match. And it was fine for what it was, but it just never really got out of that, one gear here. And I don't know, man. It was just like I expected more from Owen, offense-wise, I guess.
Well, the thing you said about their bodies breaking down is important because at this time, nobody was prepared for the WWF road schedule. It was like nothing before or since in wrestling history. Like people can talk about like, yeah, I understand, if you're working a territory, you're wrestling almost every night, and then you go to another territory. But to work for a national promotion that's wrestling every night, try doing that. Now you're crisscrossing the country. Back then, sometimes the travel schedule didn't even have a rhyme or reason to it. You'd be in Indianapolis. The next night you'd be in Los Angeles. Like it was insane. 30 matches a month sometimes. And these guys, like you said, they had never done anything like this before. They thought they could manage it, but this was unprecedented. Yeah.
And the guys that kept trying to go at 100 miles an hour, it would eventually catch up to them. They would finish their career earlier, Hennig with the back injuries and with all the awesome bumps he was taking. And it's unfortunate. We know Owen will come back and he'll have a hell of a 1990s run here with the company. But the writing's on the wall, I feel like, for the Blue Blazer character already. They bring him back after it was like Bam Bam. How dare you get hurt on my time, pal? So Blazer comes back, and the first thing they do is book him in a bunch of squashes against Akeem for whatever reason there at the beginning of 1989. And now he's out here with Curt Hennig. It's still a solid match. Backbreaker setting Hennig up. Blazer going to fly high, big splash, but Curt going to get the knees up. And then Curt Hennig going to work a seated chin lock. We won't call it a camel clutch. Don't want to piss off Sheiky Baby. So at this point, as we get a rest hold in the ring, Jesse Ventura takes the time to say hi to Terry, Tyrell, and Jade up in Minnesota. And, of course, that's his family. For those of you who don't know, Terry is wife, Tyrell and Jade, the son and daughter. But this year, he adds a fourth name to the list. And so he says hi to Terry, Tyrell, Jade, and Jeremiah. So, Brian, if anybody knows, it might be you. Do you know who the hell Jesse was? Only this year does he say hello to Jeremiah. That caught me off guard.
I do not. Maybe one day if I write the Jesse Ventura biography, I'll be able to crack it. But no, I have no idea who that is.
Very interesting. Well, Owen stays on top even after missing the big splash. He breaks out of the camel clutch or whatever you want to call that thing, lands a power slam, and that beautiful patented over-the-shoulder belly-to-belly that Owen would throw. Really great belly-to-belly from Owen Hart here. He applies a crucifix, gets a 2 count out of that. Mr. Perfect kicking free. Owen thought he got the win. He goes over to referee Tim White. I thought that was 3. Never make that mistake. Turns right around into the axe. Mr. Perfect trying to get over one of his daddy's moves there. And they never really used it here as a finisher, but guys sold it like crazy for Curt Hennig. And it's just that big forearm punch combo looking thing right between the eyes and just sends Owen down like a gunshot. And that's going to soften him up, going to knock him groggy for the perfect plex. Going to get the 1, 2, 3. Mr. Perfect scores yet another win right here on WrestleMania, keeping the perfect streak alive. And hey, it's Mr. Perfect after all. It was a solid match for what it was. I mean, I'm sure they told those guys to go out there and you got whatever time they gave them there. 5:49 was the time. So it's not like they gave them the world to go out there and have a classic match like Savage and Steamboat. So it was what it was.
Right. And that's the thing. Back then, they were more interested in packing as much star power on the show. So that's why a lot of the matches would be quick, because it's like you just want to get the guys out there, get them seen, be able to advertise them for the show and that kind of thing. And there wasn't the emphasis nowadays that we see on these marathon type matches. It was very rare in the WWF to see any match that went over like 15 minutes or so. Right, like even Savage Steamboat was 15 minutes,
Yeah, best damn 15 minutes I've ever seen. But
that's one of the things that made, I think, the Crockett promotion and WCW in this time period stand out more, because they were known more for
the wrestling.
longer matches, not just the wrestling, but longer matches too.
Right. With 14 matches on the show and that 20-minute segment of Piper's Pit, that it happens. So I mean, I get it. Everybody's got their time, and Hogan and Savage are going to get about 20 or whatever the case is, and everybody's got to get some time to shine. And they get about 6 minutes in and out, and it gets Mr. Perfect over, and it gets his finisher over, the Perfect Plex. He wins definitively in the middle of the ring with his finisher, which a lot of heels don't do. Didn't need to cheat here. So Mr. Perfect gets another perfect victory here at WrestleMania 5. And on that note, Mr. Solomon, we're going to continue on with the program, but I do want to respect your time. So we're going to bid you adieu. But I do first want to thank you so much for being a part of the definitive edition WrestleMania 5 review. 3 more matches in the books, and I'm so happy to have had you here, man.
All right, well, it's my pleasure. You know, like I always say, anytime you want me here, I'm here.
We appreciate it, man. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Brian.
All right.
Hey, it's Bob Smith, and guess what? The Outdated Wrestling Hour is now part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. But hey, no fear, you're still going to hear the unique guests, comedy, music, authors, journalists, funny people. Who knows who's going to end up on the Outdated Wrestling Hour? Remember, it's all new and all old. So check it out in the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcasts. Listen if you know what's good for you.
Hey guys, Ray Russell back to talk to you about all the new and exciting audio and video podcasts we've been putting together over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. As a self-funded brand, this entire ship is powered by our patrons. It's your support that keeps all of these wonderful shows going here at WrestleCopia. And with that said, I wanted to mention that we now have 3 major tiers with tons of Patreon-exclusive next-level content for our Patreon supporters. And it all starts with the $5 all-access tier, which gets you early access to many of the weekly podcasts, at least a dozen monthly digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure, the insanely detailed show notes for the Wrestling Memory Grenade Regional Wrestling, and the OG Monday Warfare podcast, plus random bonus video drops, archived old-school audio watch-alongs from the early years of the brand. And if that's not all, the brand new Patreon-exclusive podcast, Ranting Raw, featuring yours truly, Ray Russell, completely uncensored, unfiltered, with honest takes, taking patron questions and addressing various topics from throughout wrestling history. It is a whole lot of fun wrapped under the all-access tier for only $5, but things get even hotter with the VIP Superfan tier. For just a few dollars more, you get everything already mentioned in the all-access tier. Plus, as part of the VIP tier, a whole new slew of videocast series where it's not just your typical watch-alongs. Sure, we laugh, we have fun, but we're also breaking down the history, the context, and the why behind what you're seeing. And as part of the VIP tier, you have access to Dan Gennety's Puro Resu Academy videocast, the Coliseum videocast with co-host Gene Jackson, and the Monday Warfare videocast, Raw vs. Nitro, breaking down the history of the Monday Night War. Plus, you also get the Memphis 1985 folder of goodies and all show notes for the Puro Academy podcast and Gene's retro review show. Lots to be had there at the VIP tier. But wait, there's more. For those WrestleCopia backers who crave even more from the brand, we bring you yet another level of content fit for a warrior. Because it is indeed the ultimate tier, which gives you everything from the all-access pass, everything from the VIP tier, plus you will receive access to the big ones video series, featuring a lengthy look and discussion into some of the biggest pay-per-views, super shows, and other events from throughout wrestling history. It's also a great place to keep up with the big events that coincide with the Monday Warfare videocast and so many other big events from years gone by. You'll also have access to the newest big hit to the Copia brand. I'm talking about Regional Wrestling Unreal, the video series. Get ready for the next level in Regional Wrestling as we dissect territory history in video form. Watch along with us. But still, even more for your money, guys. You'll also receive access to the Treasure Chest, which offers patrons the unique opportunity to download and watch select rarities from wrestling history. And for those of you who are wondering what we offer, are contemplating joining a paid Patreon membership, or simply a curious lurker, a reminder there's a free tier at our Patreon that you can join as well. Remember guys, no subscription, cancel any time, but I think you'll like the content that we're offering there for any budget you may have. And you can sign up right now, patreon.com/WrestleCopia, or look for the QR code where available. We appreciate your support in helping us pay the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network running and enabling us to continue to bring you all the quality programming that we offer.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
All right, guys, we continue to move along here with the definitive edition of WrestleMania 5, sliding into second base now, I guess we could say, as we're just about halfway there on the program, right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. Here he is, a member of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, and of course, the host of Wrestling Nostalgia with Dave Dynasty. Believe it or not, the gentleman's name is Dave Dynasty. Welcome to the program, brother.
Hey, thank you. It's funny how that works out, right? Wrestling Nostalgia with Dave Dynasty, and I'm Dave Dynasty. That's weird.
A lot of thought into that one, Dave. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not known for my originality sometimes, but
well, hey man, we're not talking original WrestleMania here, but we are talking the 5th edition, WrestleMania 5. We want to thank you so much for your first venture here into the world of the Grenade Show, man. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel like it's been a long time coming.
It has been a long time. We both are super fans of this era. 1989 here. We both agree that it's certainly one of the peak, if not the peak year of the wrestling storytelling that was, the 1980s into the Hogan era, if you will. It doesn't get any better than this. So, Dave, what are your memories, not necessarily of the entire card or anything like that, but what are your memories of 1989 Dave Dynasty going into WrestleMania 5?
Well, 1989 Dave Dynasty I was a 13-year-old.
Okay.
And so this was like made for me. I was so entrenched in wrestling, watched everything I could. NWA, WWF, anything. I was watching. We had a satellite dish, and not to implicate my parents, but we had some nefarious cards in our receiver that allowed us to get
been there
everything. So so I watched lots of stuff, but 89 for me, I don't know that there's ever been a year that I've been more passionate and just involved. Right. Everything just felt like it was just clicking for me that year. So
I think that's a good call. Everything was changing down there in Dallas on ESPN because we were switching, into the Jarrett regime. But then we got Flair and Steamboat over there on TBS. And of course, the Mega Powers exploding tonight live on pay-per-view. And we just finished up a matchup between Mr. Perfect and the Blue Blazer. And at this point in the show, though, you joined in at, I don't want to say the worst time because we're going to get to something good here in a minute. But it's a downtime. They got to set the stage for something they got going on in the ring. So you're kind of wondering, what are they doing? What they're doing right now is killing a little time because it's time for Jesse Ventura's surprise. I think at this point in the show, introducing one of the all-time greats, a top TV commentator and self-professed major Hollywood star. And we saw him do this at WrestleMania 4. Jesse Ventura back up again to pose for the fans there in Trump Plaza. Were you a Jesse the Body fan?
I can't say I was a Jesse the Body fan.
Mm-hmm.
I did very much enjoy Jesse the Body as a commentator. I was a heel guy. I was a heel kid.
Okay.
I liked the heels by far. And Jesse to me just always made the most sense on commentary. To me, he spoke truths.
Right. He did. He had his favorites, but he still spoke truth. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I felt like he was maybe the least biased. How about that?
Okay, that's fair.
So I like Jesse as a commentator. My favorite duo of all time is Gorilla and Bobby. I'm a huge Bobby Heenan fan.
Sure.
But that's my second is Jesse and Gorilla. And I like Jesse Ventura as a commentator. Can't say outside of that I was necessarily a big Jesse. These spots where he had to get up and pose. And
I should have specified. I absolutely meant Jesse as a comment, not necessarily Jesse's work, his body of work in the ring, if you will. But but it was interesting. I will say this, covering WrestleMania 4 at length here on the Grenade as well. Jesse might have got maybe one of the top 2 biggest pops at WrestleMania. I think it was that Trump crowd. They kind of knew the Jesse the Body character, so he got a little bit more of an ovation there. And they do it again here. They run it back here at WrestleMania 5. Not as loud is the crowd this time, but the body also doesn't take his jacket off this time, so maybe he hadn't been working out just as much. But what a dangerous place to be, though. He's standing up there, if you remember, up there with Gorilla, and Gorilla kind of makes a comment like, make a wrong step, body, and that's going to be the end of Jesse Ventura. And it's kind of interesting where they have him commentating, but it's fun. You're wondering, why are they randomly doing this? And then instead of going back to the ring, we get another segment. This might be this feels like it's right up Dave Dynasty's alley. Yesterday morning, there was a 5K run. We see Lord Alfred Hayes and company. We see a few people out here, and including Mr. Fuji, who says he is in superior shape, racing in his tuxedo, complete with the bowler hat here. Fuji cheating the rest of the racers by taking off first. They quickly pass him by, but then Fuji somehow manages to clock in 19 minutes. In his tuxedo, by the way, never broke a sweat.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what this segment was. This was, I don't know if it was just filler. I don't know if this was supposed to, I don't know. This felt like a Fuji Vice kind of segment. Something comical to do with Fuji. I don't know. I always appreciated Fuji. I know he's not the best. He wasn't the best on the mic or whatever, but I think he brought elements to the game. And I always appreciated his past, right? Even then, as a kid, I read the magazines. I knew what Fuji had done in the past.
Right.
So I appreciated him. This just kind of, I don't know, kind of seemed odd for a WrestleMania.
This felt like Vince McMahon came up with this idea.
It did.
Pal, that'll be funny.
That's right.
He'll be in a tuxedo and he'll run a race.
I'm sure 1989 Dave Dynasty didn't think twice about this. Just thought, hey, this is part of the show.
Part of the show, part of the package. Yeah. Absolutely. So I thought it was
1989 Dave Dynasty probably thought, oh, this means we're getting ready to get Demolition.
Oh, well, well, he's a pretty smart fella then back in 1989. I don't know if I would have picked up on that, but yeah, absolutely. That totally makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Well, it was a fun little comedy spot. I'm not really sure how that plays into the Powers of Pain challenging Demolition. I mean, you're getting ready for your big world title match, and you're out here running quote unquote, running 5Ks in tuxedos. But it is what it is, and we cut back to ringside, and now we find out what this has been all about. They've been killing time to set up for the Run DMC WrestleMania rap. Now, I'm a mark for wrestling songs, certainly as a kid. I've listened to them all 100 times. I learned the lyrics for most of them. Honestly, there's some bad songs, but I've done it. But something about this one, this WrestleMania rap, a combo of the bad microphone, like it's over the house mic rather than connected straight into the TV feed. And maybe it's the hokey style rap, because Run DMC was great. I mean, I know you said that you were a fan, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yes.
But they were basically forced to cater to the family or whatever you want to call it here. And I never once attempted to learn the words to this one. I've learned a lot of wrestling songs, but not this one. But take me back. What was your thoughts, Run DMC appearing here at WrestleMania?
Well, this would have been something. This was something I was very excited about. Again, like you said, I loved Run DMC. I was a huge Run DMC fan, especially at this time. Run DMC was probably my favorite musical act at this time.
Okay.
But this kind of let me down. All the hype in my head I had and whatever else, and it's just, I don't know, it didn't come through. I don't know what I expected. I don't know if I expected, they would go out there and rap It's Tricky or one of their hits or something.
Sure.
But, I don't know. This didn't connect with me. It fell a little flat. Still loved it, Run DMC, or obviously still loved the WWF, but for some reason it didn't work when the two were together. I don't know. I don't know what happened there for me.
Yeah, to quote Gorilla, a little bit of that went a long way with me, and that's how I felt by the end of this segment. And I'm not ripping on Run DMC. I was a fan as well. But this, just like you said, the two worlds, they just didn't mesh here in 1989.
Yeah, we about to get busy, y'all. Y'all want to rock out there? Everybody put their hands in the air top. I want everybody on the front say, come on, WrestleMania. Everybody over here say, WrestleMania.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Run DMC.
A little bit of that went a long way with me, I'll tell you that, but you really ate it up, Jess. I got into that, Gorilla. I like that.
Rap wasn't ready for wrestling, or wrestling wasn't ready for rap. Of course, we've heard the Wrestle Rock Rumble by this point, so you get my drift. Of course, later on, PN News and Oscar, and yeah. It takes a while, to get there. But
yeah, I don't know if we ever got there. It doesn't feel like it.
No, I guess not. The West Texas Rednecks even beat out the Master P and company. So I guess good point there. So yeah, even Gorilla trying to be polite while bearing at the same time. But Jesse said he dug it, and unbelievably, I clocked that whole segment in just 3 minutes. So they were in and out of the ring. They did their rap and they got the heck out of Dodge. But they seemed to have fun, and I noticed carrying some kids backstage, so at least they brought some family with them, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, well, now at this point, we're going to go into the big stuff. Dave, I know you've been waiting for this. Perhaps your favorite tag team of all time. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know one of your favorites at the very least.
Yes.
Okay, and at the time, they were the WWF Tag Team Champions. I'm talking about Axe and Smash, Demolition, and before we go any further, we would be remiss if we didn't congratulate Bill Eadie and Barry Darsow on finally, the longest overdue perhaps at this point, to enter the WWE Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. Yes. I see. If you hadn't mentioned, I was going to.
Okay.
Because how perfect, right? They should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. And yes, Demolition. I think the only team that maybe rivaled them as my favorite would have been the Midnight Express.
Okay.
I was a huge Midnight Express fan. As far as WWE goes, by far my favorite. And it was so peculiar. I always viewed Demolition. I don't know. I never viewed them as Road Warrior clones or ripoffs, like a lot of people claim.
Yeah, right.
Never. But it's funny because I did think of the Powers of Pain that way. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because the Powers of Pain were the NWA. I don't know what it was, but never viewed Demolition that way in my mind.
No, I totally agree with you. I grew up on Demolition, but I had seen the Road Warriors as well, and I never really connect the dots. They were both painted up guys, but along came the Warrior and other guys who started painting their faces. Yeah. And so I didn't really look at it like, well, anybody doing that is ripping off the Road Warriors. And again, they try to blame Vince. Vince didn't even come up with the gimmick. Supposedly it was, mostly Randy Colley and then, Bill Eadie, and then Barry Darsow replaces Moondog Rex very quickly into that whole thing. But they have had a heck of a run. They got over throughout 1987. They win the titles at WrestleMania 4. We called it right here a long time ago now on the Grenade. They've held the belts now for a solid straight year. Unbelievable during this time period. And I'm with you. Demolition in the WWF, they're my 1A, and I believe the Hart Foundation's my 1B. It depends on who they were working at the time, who they were feuding with. It was like, this is more entertaining, so I'm a Harts guy this week. I'm a Demolition guy. So definitely one of my top 2 favorites growing up here. And it's so fun to be able to have somebody on here that appreciates Demolition. So now we're going to go back as we get into the matchup. They're going to show a quick recap of the quote unquote feud. And there's not a whole lot to it other than the Fuji turn back at the Richfield Coliseum Survivor Series. Of course, Fuji pulling the rope down, Smash getting counted out, and Fuji basically turning on his Demolition, and Demolition leaving him laying on the ground. Powers of Pain come over, dust him off, help him up, and Fuji helps the Pain defeat the Conquistadors. And the fans don't seem to know. They kind of cheer Fuji, as did I. Yeah. It confused the hell out of everybody. And then Demolition runs back out and clears the ring, and their music plays, and we're taught when that happens, that's the baby faces. And then you hear like this dead silence because the fans are like, well, I don't know what the hell just happened here.
Yeah, and that's completely was my mindset at the time. I didn't know what was going on. I thought it did feel like Fuji was turning babyface.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if it's just the way we were trained. I don't know what it was. It was so peculiar. I know, they tried to do the double turn. It didn't land, at least for me as a viewer at that time.
Right.
I totally missed the boat. Again, to me, I love Demolition. So the rest, I didn't care who was what and who was with what. But I just thought, oh, Fuji's, he's turned on Demolition. He'll be with the Powers of Pain now as a good guy. Okay. That was weird.
Right. No, yeah.
And especially in retrospect, I don't know if it was the best way to do it, but I do think watching this time period, Demolition was screaming for a face turn because they were being cheered.
Yeah.
People were loving them.
Right. It happened with Jake. It happened with Savage, and it was bound to happen with Demolition. They pulled the trigger. I'm with you. I thought, well, I guess Fuji decided he was turning good. I thought he saw the light. And then, they go on TV and they beat it to death for weeks that Demolition too big for their britches. They stopped listening to the master because it didn't make any sense for a manager to leave a tag team champion, right? They're the belt. Sure. They're the belt holders. But Fuji still decides, Powers of Pain, listen. they're going to be the guys that take the belts from Demolition here at WrestleMania. And right now, guys, we're going to go off to a quick soundbite here. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with the tag team champions, Demolition.
All right, here they are. Axe and Smash, the Demolition Tag Team Champions. Gentlemen, just moments away, the Powers of Pain and Mr. Fuji and your title defense, Smash.
That's right, you just said it. Moments away. Foods the Stooge. Look at this. We're in our war gear, and we're ready for action. So when you get to that ring, there's only one thing to do. That's knock your stinking teeth in.
We're going to make history right here today. The Three Stooges, I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready, Warlord, the Barbarian, because Foods the Stooge, you can't hide forever. We're going to take care of business. We're going to go right in that ring, and we're going to do what we do best. We demolish people. We're the champions. We're on top of the mountain, and nobody, especially you little overstuffed rat, I'm talking about you, Foods the Stooge, you're not going to do anything. We're going to grab you around the neck, squeeze those eyeballs out, and get you right out of the track.
All right, the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions on their way for a title defense.
All right, we are just moments away, Foods the Stooge. 3-on-2. Remember, handicap match here tonight. It's time to demolish and destroy. Time to kick some stinking teeth in, says Smash there. So are we ready to jump into this thing, Dave? I'll read a little bit of the happenings here, and we'll get into the match.
Yeah. And again, before you talk about the promo with Demolition, they were always a great promo to me.
Yeah, it was always fun.
So intense. Yeah, and everything. I'm ready. Let's go.
Well, they always made sure both guys got their say, too. Edie was always a great promo, and Darso did a really good job here after having to hold his tongue all those years for Uncle Ivan.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump into things. Handicap action, guys. It is 3-on-2. Demolition, the tag team champions. Earl Hebner back out here for the title bout. Powers of Pain introduced first. As Demolition's music begins to play for just a split second, someone in production realizes, oops, we forgot to introduce Mr. Fuji before we hit the Demolition music. Simple mistake, but I love it because you see the fans immediately pop up and begin to cheer, and then they introduce Mr. Fuji. And then the music hits. Okay, cue Demolition. Here they come out to the ring. Quick little flub there. The latest additions to the 2026 Hall of Fame. Axe and Smash Tag Team Champions. As the Demolitions arrive and remove their garb, we see Fuji in the opposite corner tossing that evil ceremonial salt. Pre-match ritual. What'd you think of the ceremonial salt? Did you feel like it might come into play again later in the match?
Of course. I thought there's got to be, obviously a reason. I think Jesse said something about, it's nice to see someone remembering tradition or something to that effect and everything else. Speaking of the theme song, Demolition, the best theme song of all time.
Yeah,
Hands
it's got to be.
I love it.
I'm a Rougeaus theme guy, but I'm definitely
that was good.
It depends on the night. Again, like I'm down with Axe and Smash, heavy metal, baby.
Sure.
But
So, and I did wonder, why did the Powers of Pain not have theme music? I wonder at this time.
It's always a good. Well, I felt like their babyface music was a little too upbeat for the heel team.
Yeah,
but it's weird that they never really decided to pull the trigger, and they wouldn't have music for the rest of their runs all the way to 92, even in singles, which is just weird.
Yeah.
But it looks like they decide to start off with the Warlord, the bigger guy of the two, which I can't believe, there is a bigger guy between those two. And Axe is going to start out for Demolition. Surprisingly, Demolition dominate early on, taking turns hammering the Warlord down to the mat, even joining together for some fun, big clubbing blows. Dusty Rhodes would be proud. Clubber him, baby. Warlord finally shows off his power, picking a near 300-pound Smash up in the air and carrying him back to his corner, tagging in the Barbarian. But immediately Barb missing the charge, Smash fighting his way out, slugging both challengers. Smash then going to drag Barbarian back to the champion's side as well as Axe takes over. But Clothesline drops the Barbarian and a big body slam to boot as well. So early on here, it's all Demolition and control. It just seems very odd that, you would start off with a big, no pun intended, barbaric team like the Powers of Pain, and it's all Demolition.
And then in retrospect, knowing what I know now, if you watch this, not knowing what's happening, you'd almost sense there's going to be a title change.
Right.
Because Demolition's getting their stuff in early. That's what you feel. I don't know. I wonder if it had something to do with the fact that Warlord was a little weak in the ring, a little weak as a worker. Maybe I don't know. Or they were just doing something unique. I don't know. But it was kind of an odd start with Demolition's, seemingly handing it to the Powers of Pain and controlling them early on.
Total dominance, absolutely, yeah. But so they keep Barbarian on their side of the ring, kind of an old classic heel Arn Tully type spot here where they're keeping the ring cut in half. They're keeping the challengers on their side of the ring. And that's something they don't get credit for. A lot of people, again, go back to the Road Warrior ripoff deal. If you go back and watch Demolition, they worked like a tag team is supposed to. I'm not trying to crap on the roadies. I'm just saying the roadies didn't cut the ring in half. They just beat the crap out of you. Demolition tried to work like an actual team, and so they keep Barbarian on their side, double back elbow, but they're not done dishing out the punishment yet. Axe going to apply a neck vice on the mat. Finally, though, Barbarian goes to the throat of Smash, able to tag back in the Warlord, but Demolition responds with a double clothesline to take the big man down. So you could be right. You might be onto something here. Maybe Warlord not the best on the offense, so let's just keep him in there minimal other than to take some of the heat.
Yeah, I feel like of the of the five,
right?
Obviously, I think the Warlord is the least experienced there and probably the greenest.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, and again, it's still feeling like, at some point the Powers of Pain will turn the tables, win the titles.
You would, that's exactly what, because there's so much domination for so long here by the champions, and they're the baby faces. It feels like something's going to happen here. So as the referee tries to get Smashed back to the apron, finally, Mr. Fuji distracting Axe in the ring and Barbarian decking him from behind. And now the challengers finally take over. Fuji even getting in some cheap shots there from the apron. You got to love when the heel manager gets in his shots.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, Fuji, for being his age at this time, and everything else, I thought he looked great. And I thought he actually worked okay. Because you've hear lots of guys say it. Fuji was working like a manager,
right?
He wasn't trying to work on par with these four. He was being the devious Fuji, getting his shots in, and I thought he did okay. But yeah, it was clearly the focus was on Demolition trying to get to Fuji trying to cheat Demolition. So that's kind of what this is all centering around. It feels like.
Yeah, and this is the classic spot where the babyface is down, so the manager tags in. Fuji comes in, big martial arts chops, bonsai headbutt drop, goes very low on X. Mm-hmm. Barbarian back in for one of my favorite moves of all time, the big boot. And if he wasn't
Nobody
before,
doesn't like the Barbarian. Yeah.
No, Axe is in trouble at this point in the matchup. Flying shoulder block from the Barbarian as well, and a power slam. And then Fuji tagging back in, and I can't believe this for his age. You talked about his age, but his shape as well. Fuji going to the top rope for a diving leg drop. And Axe out of the way. Wise move there, Bill Eadie. Nobody mad respect, though, for Mr. Fuji, a guy whose knees were, completely shot by this point, limited ability, and he decides, hey, guys, let me go to the top rope and do a spot. Just wow.
Yeah. Peculiar, right? I mean, he just unreal that he would do. And again, I think it's probably that commitment, that love of the game. But again, Fuji, it was odd. He just stood out, and you felt like, hey, this is Fuji digging in one more time of that Fuji of the past, that former tag champ Fuji, trying to have one last hurrah. And
right,
I don't think he embarrassed himself.
No, luckily for Fuji, even though he missed that leg drop from the top, he landed near his corner, so he was able to tag out to the Warlord, who comes in. But Axe going to duck a clothesline, land one of his own. Down goes the Warlord, and Axe falls back in his corner to make the hot tag to partner Smash, who comes in, unloads, double axe handle to the Warlord, scoop slam. Very impressive on both members of the Powers of Pain. Clothesline to both Pain as well. The fans eating it up. The crowd now getting a little into it.
Yeah, and Smash stood out. To me, of this match, Smash he just was a little bit sharper,
I think
a little more intense. Yeah, he stood out from this group for me through the entire match.
I think he brought the energy to the match is what I think Smash did for this one. And it breaks down at that point. It's Bonzo Gonzo, the referee, getting busy with Axe and the Barbarian on the outside on the floor. So when the ring, Warlord going to hold Smash from behind, as there it is, Mr. Fuji pulling out a bag of that ceremonial salt.
Who would have thought?
Very good, boy, son. Fuji looking to blind Smash. But Smash ducks and Fuji powder to the eyes of the Warlord instead. And as Axe drops the Barbarian on the floor, Fuji inadvertently blinding the Warlord. Smash going to clothesline poor Fuji. And Demolition quickly following up with the decapitation. And even with the odds against him, 3-on-2, Axe going to make the cover. 1, 2, 3. Mr. Fuji goes down. Demolition retained 8 minutes, 55 seconds.
Yeah, and I think the finish was great because I think it's what everyone wanted to see, right? They wanted to see Demolition gets some revenge against Fuji, right? By hitting the decapitation, getting the pin. And in doing this, the Powers of Pain didn't lose anything, right? They didn't take a pin. So they still possibly appear, strong as a strong contender to have, a few more matches with Demolition.
Right.
Again, you knew what was happening with the Sully. It took a little too long. Anybody who's watched wrestling knew, he's going to duck that one. But, but fun finish, what you'd expect. I don't know, it was a fun, great little match. I loved it, right? I mean, it's prototypical Demolition match right there.
Yeah, and like you said, they protect the Powers of Pain on the way out of this match. And honestly, I thought they had a chance going in as a kid simply because you were trained, man, when the next big thing comes along, it's got to be a title change at some point, perhaps. Yeah. And Warlord and Barbarian looked the part, but I think that's pretty much where it began and ended. No offense to the Barbarian. I love the Barbarian. He was an amazing athlete. I mean, just his agility, his strength, everything in between. But it was just, I don't know, it was something about this feud. It could have been the way they handled the feud. It could have been just the fact that once the Powers of Pain were turned heel, they lost all personality. They couldn't do the aggression gimmick anymore. They were doing as baby faces. So they were really slow in plotting. And so while this made a great visual, I mean, you stick this on, on the TV screen, Demolition on one side of the ring, Powers of Pain on the other, you're like, holy, I'm in comic book world. But, then the bell rings and it was just kind of there, a lot of the match anyway. Again, Smash brought the aggression. I appreciate that. But I don't know, man. This feud never did it for me.
Me neither. I don't know what it was. Yeah, like you said, it's like the Powers of Pain lost it, right? That they needed a little more aggression. Maybe Fuji, Fuji may not have been the best fit for him. Warlord, Barbarian, neither one are talkers. Fuji's not really a talker.
True.
They maybe they needed somebody else as the mouthpiece. But I again, as a kid, I was excited to see this. I was excited to see this feud. But once this happened, once this occurred, Demolition pinning Fuji, as a kid, I was pretty done with it. I thought, that's it. They've done their part.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really viewed the Powers of Pain as a serious threat after that.
Well, Demolition, we know, will go on to work with the Brain Busters, work with the Twin Towers throughout the rest of the year. The Powers of Pain, actually, if I don't know if you recall, but they're actually going to split them up here for a bunch of singles matches. Now, I know they're going to split them up permanently in 1990, but much like the Hart Foundation, they begin toying with separating these guys after WrestleMania. We're going to see that in the weeks to come. But so that's pretty much it right now for the Powers of Pain. They're on the back burner, but they got their run. They got a WrestleMania tag title match, for goodness sake. So good for them. But we got another match here to look at before the end of the first half of the pay-per-view. Before we go back to the ring, though, quick trip backstage. Tony Schiavone attempting to interview WWF champion Randy Macho Man Savage. Tony standing outside of the dressing room. Brave man, Tony. Savage, realizing he's on camera, decks the cameraman. And I noticed Tony Schiavone no longer anywhere in sight.
Yeah, it was. This was great. This was great. Savage as a heel, uncontrollable.
Right.
You're just completely off his rocker.
Unhinged.
Unhinged. I was a complete Randy Savage guy at this time. You'll talk about it later, later in the show about the main event, but I was pulling for the Macho Man in the main event. So, but again, like you, I was never a Hulk Hogan fan.
Right.
Things don't always go our way, but I loved Unhinged Savage. That's what made, Macho Man the Macho Man to me.
It made him believable. I mean, it really did. And everything was going against him here. Elizabeth refused to be in his corner. His, Hulk Hogan's coming for his belt. It's WrestleMania. He's got other things going on that we'll talk about when we get to the matchup. It's, we're going to see he's got some arm issues too walking into that big main event. But here's a good one, because I say this every time, and it's true. Every time you watch one of these big events, you see something new you've never seen before. I've been watching WrestleMania 5 since 1989. And I just happen to, because it's so quick, it's a blink and you'll miss it segment here, Savage coming out of that room. But if you look, that room appears to be 6x6. I think they set up a janitor closet as Randy Savage's quote unquote dressing room just for this segment.
Interesting. I never noticed that.
No,
that might have been, that's the kind of room maybe he would have once locked Elizabeth in, but
that I wasn't going to say it, but anybody is part of my Patreon will see that's literally in my notes. So
I don't know. Yeah, it is what it is. The Macho Man's, he's losing stature. I guess the dressing room reduces in size.
Well, that's I guess he can already predict the outcome of tonight's main event if you're judging on the dressing room there. Well, we've got another match to get into, Dave. I don't want to waste too much of your time here tonight. I appreciate you being with me. So we're going to go back to ringside. Sure. We got another matchup getting ready to take place. That is rugged Ronnie Garvin, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, out here to take on the Canadian strongman Dino Bravo with Frenchie Martin in his corner. Dino and Frenchie get the big entrance. The music plays. Meanwhile, poor Ronnie Garvin just standing there with a towel.
Yeah, this was, again, so peculiar. I don't know what to think of all this. Ronnie Garvin, I liked Ronnie Garvin.
Mm-hmm.
I really
I was a fan too.
He never fit in the WWF for me. It always felt out of place. And in retrospect, man, I think they should have turned Ronnie Garvin heel and given him a manager.
Ooh, that would have been good. Yeah, with the aggression. Yeah, I think it would have worked because he never clicked in the WWF, and not for on his part. I always thought Ronnie Garvin was great, but yeah,
I think he could have been a little bit next level had they maybe turned him heel and done a little something with him. But and Dino Bravo, I don't even know what to say about Dino Bravo. But
yeah, we make that very clear, abundantly clear. You're right in line with every other human being that's ever been part of any show I've ever done here in the Grenade world in regards to the thoughts on Dino Bravo. But wait, before the action can begin, before the bout, the Fink introduces returning to the WWF after a lengthy absence, Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Kind of an odd time to do this. We got a match, and I know they used to, introduce somebody. Joe McHugh might introduce somebody, and he comes in and waves before a match on Championship Wrestling back in the day. But what an odd time to just introduce the return of Superfly when you have a match in the ring.
Definitely. And again, I took some notes. That's exactly what I said. This feels so odd. Again, I loved, Jimmy Snuka, seeing him. Totally agree with maybe, having him appear at WrestleMania 5 and do something. But this seems so weird. I don't understand. You got both guys in the ring ready to go. They introduce him. He makes his way all the way to the ring, gets in, waves, and then gets out and leaves. And I was like, what is this? And I remember as a kid thinking, oh, Jimmy Snuka he'll be involved in this match somehow then.
Right.
Like something will happen. That's why they're doing this.
And that would have made sense. Thank goodness they didn't pair Jimmy with Dino Bravo, to feud or something out of this. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I thought maybe he was going to hang ringside. Something was going to happen here. He's going to make the save. Nope. He just comes out, throws up the I love yous, doesn't even look at Ronnie Garvin, who is a fellow babyface. Usually you get the handshake or something there. Snuka just gives the I love yous and leaves the ring as if he's in another world, which he probably was.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand. Why did they not? To me, why not do this before the introductions?
Right.
Or before the guy? I mean, or if you're going to do it here, or why not just do this as a backstage thing? I mean, I guess you want him out there in front of the crowd, but
right.
The timing was so peculiar.
Yeah, very, very
weird.
And of all matches, poor Jimmy Snuka. Well, everybody's getting popcorn, right?
Yeah, I mean, what did they think? That they just needed a little Snuka rub on this? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. It was not enough.
And it was pre-Superfly, the cool music. We got the mean sax was playing here again. They loved to bust out the saxophone in the late 80s here. Well, while Ronnie Garvin decides which side of the ring he wants to toss his towel to the fans, Bravo attacking from behind and floors Rugged Ron before dropping the big elbow. Dino begins to work over Garvin's back, applying a quick bear hug before driving Ronnie back into the corner. Dino covering with a single foot on the chest. Got to hook the leg, chest. Doesn't get the win there. Bravo appears to be looking for a power bomb at one point. Garvin up in his air on his shoulders, but Garvin begins hammering away those big punches. Dino falling backwards as Garvin lands on top to get a 2 count. And now Rugged Ronnie in control. A combo of those patented big right hands and nasty Garvin chops. And then another big right drops Bravo, and Garvin with the jackknife cover to get the near fall. I had a big problem with this. I saw Ronnie Garvin knock out many guys with one punch. He's hitting Dino Bravo with a half a dozen here, and he's getting a 2 count.
Yeah. This is, I guess, completely the Vince McMahon that this is our world. The other worlds don't matter. Yeah, I don't know, not quite the hands of stone. It's, I will say, Dino Bravo, he looks like $1 million, but just doesn't work like it.
Immobile.
But
I mean,
it is.
It's muscle bound.
Absolutely.
To the max.
It is. But Ronnie Garvin made him look so good. In this early part, everything he did, it looked great because of Ronnie Garvin.
Yeah.
And he was doing a great job selling and everything else, but this whole match, I don't know. Ronnie just did not get the respect.
He was trying. He really was trying with what he had to work
was.
with out there. A bunch of French Canadians ringside for this one, by the way. Garvin locking in a sleeper hold at this point. Somebody better tell him that's somebody else.
Yeah.
You don't do somebody else's move in the WWF.
Exactly what I thought. I thought, is Beefcake throwing a fit backstage?
Dino going to make it to the ropes to break the sleeper. So Ron going to pivot, looking for his patented pile driver he's been using. But Dino Bravo countering that with a backdrop. But Ronnie counters the backdrop with a sunset flip. Still no dice, doesn't get the win. Garvin taking Bravo into the corner, big chops, before he mounts him for the big 10 punches Doom. But Dino counters that, carrying Ronnie out with an inverted atomic drop. And of course, Garvin's stunned at that point, going to walk right into the side suplex, Jess. Going to get the clean win here in the center of the ring. Dino Bravo pins Ronnie Garvin, 3 minutes, 57 seconds.
Unreal. It's like a squash match.
Yes.
This was unbelievable. I couldn't believe for a WrestleMania match there wasn't. First of all, I guess it's Dino Bravo. What are you going to do? You can't go much over 3 minutes.
Right. No,
but
I'm not complaining about the time.
Yeah. Outside of what's to come, what was Frenchie Martin there for? I mean, they never even showed him on camera. What? It's so.
Well, we're about to find out.
Bringing nothing to the table.
That's right, and, Frenchie. As usual, per the usual. And we're going to talk.
That's right.
We're going to talk about Frenchie here in a minute. I will never understand this inexplicable push of Dino Bravo, though, who not only wins this match in under 4 minutes, but as a heel, he wins clean and pretty easily, handily. Garvin did what he could, but he was going nowhere with the company, like you said, and was never meant to be anything to start. Unfortunately, that was just, Vince's mindset. He gets an idea of where he wants you on the card, and that's where you're going to be, unless you really get over. But that wasn't the case here. But barely a mention on TV leading into this matchup. They didn't really build it up. There was no backstory. Unfortunately, we've got another segment of the match. The match is over, but the segment is not. We're not done yet. Revenge time for old RRG, and that spells trouble for one Frenchie Martin. As Bravo celebrates, he catches a forearm to the back from Garvin. Bravo taking a bump out to the floor, and it's Frenchie's turn to turn into the Hand of Stone KO punch, and it works this time. Yep. Out like a light goes Frenchie Martin as he gets Garvin stomped out of the WWF. This marks the end of the Frenchie Martin character.
Well, thank goodness for that. Never a Frenchie Martin fan. I don't know. I guess this was supposed to be Ronnie getting a little back. It's funny because, obviously we're at Trump, Trump Plaza. You can see Donald Trump right there ringside. Look at Donald Trump. Apparently he was very amused by the Garvin stomp because he was laughing at Frenchie taking the Garvin stomp. But
it's the simple things.
I guess. But this is, I don't know. If you got Frenchie out there, have him figure in the finish, right? At least screw Ronnie out of win. Give him a saving grace out of it.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know if it's a Pat Patterson thing. I don't know if it's a Vince McMahon thing. Somebody obviously was very high on Dino Bravo at this time.
My goodness. Yeah. I mean, the entire time.
Yeah, because this is typical Dino Bravo. And I remember at the time watching and thinking, good grief, Dino Bravo was not that good.
Yeah.
Why, even as a kid, why does he keep winning?
Exactly. I mean, if he didn't win, he was usually eliminated in a match by disqualification or count out. Hogan not even dropping the leg. I believe Survivor Series 90, Hogan with a schoolboy on frickin' Dino Bravo. I'm like, what is that about? Yeah. I don't think it's till Dino Bravo finishes this run with the Texas Tornado at WrestleMania 7 that he finally just does the job on the way out.
Yeah, it's so odd. Again, I don't know. I mean, I know once upon a time Dino Bravo was a different worker.
Right.
And I appreciate that and respect that. But I know he had the WWE look, WWF look, right, with the body, but not much to watch here.
No, there was something more to it. I'll never figure out what it. Maybe one day we'll find out. Maybe it's something to do with the cigarette cartel. I have no idea. But Dave, I want to thank you so much for joining us here as part of the first half of the WrestleMania 5 Definitive Edition right here on the Grenade Show. Like I said, long time coming. So great to have you here. I knew I wanted you part of that demolition match, and unfortunately, you also fell into the Ronnie Garvin match. I have to apologize for that, but somebody had to do it, and I'm glad you took one for the team.
That's okay. Again, I endured Dino Bravo. I enjoyed Ronnie Garvin, but That's okay. I'll take a Dino Bravo to get a demolition. That's all right. I still feel like I come out the victor.
All right, guys. Remember, you guys can listen to Wrestling Nostalgia with Dave Dynasty, featuring Dave Dynasty pretty much every week here on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and everywhere you guys get your podcast for sure. Dave, I want to thank you so much, man. And you got anything you want to add before you say goodbye?
No, not really. Again, WrestleMania 5 again was so much fun. 89 was so fun. But to me, this is the undercard. I love Demolition and everything, but it doesn't matter. Everything's building towards that main event.
Oh, that main
event. Excited to hear you talk about it later. That's what it was all. It didn't matter what the undercard was. To see Savage Hogan, that was the show, and that's what mattered. So,
absolutely. All right, man. Well, we thank you so much for stopping by, Dave. We hope to have you back here on the Grenade down the line, maybe closer to SummerSlam time. Until then, man, we're going to wrap things up here this week on the Grenade. But thank you for being here, Dave. We appreciate you, man.
Yep, I appreciate you having me, Ray. And let's do it again. Always happy to talk some classic wrestling.
All right, Dave Dynasty, guys. Wrestling Nostalgia. Check it out. And on that note, we have one more match to review here this week, and that means one more guest, a very special guest here to close out this week's episode of The Grenade. He is the ghost of Grenades past, many years past. I'm talking about the one and only, the OG, one of the original co-hosts right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade, Steve Eckstedt. Wow, we're pulling out all the stops here. Welcome back, Steve.
Glad to be back. I can't believe it's been years and years since we started this thing, or you started this thing, and I was on for the ride. But wow, doesn't feel like that long.
Not since the summer of 1993 here in Grenade storytelling. Anyway, have you been part of the show? I mean, it's great to have you back. Of course, since that time, we finished up 93. We've tackled 87, 88. Now we're into WrestleMania 5. And what better time to stop by than not only a WrestleMania, but a Hogan era WrestleMania and the Mega Powers explode, brother?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, honestly. I mean, it's a doozy to get through, but
it can be long.
Just the nostalgia of it all, and obviously this is like peak Hogan, I think.
Yeah. It is financially anyway.
Yeah, and this is probably his biggest feud of his entire career. So
best story told in my estimation, I think.
I agree 100% too. So this is the culmination of a tremendous story that overlapped the year plus and all those things. So
yeah,
WrestleMania 5 is a good one for that purpose. I'm not saying the show's great, but for that reason alone, I feel like it's very significant, very important in the realm of things.
Well, I saved you from the Ronnie Garvin Dino Bravo match. Dave Dynasty took the sword on that one. He fell on the sword for you. But I'm going to bring you in here. We got one more match to cover this week. And these are all the matches you guys can find right now. Part of the Ultimate Tier. It is part 1 of WrestleMania 5, the video cast. I've been doing that with John Paz. Part 2 coming out next week, so stay tuned for that as well. But as we begin to wrap up this week's episode of The Grenade, we still got one big match left. And it's going to see the reuniting Strikeforce, Tito Santana and Rick Martel, taking on the Brainbusters, Arn Anderson and, of course, Tully Blanchard, managed by one Bobby the Brain Heenan. And this is the kind of point in the match where we're 8 matches. This is going to be the 8th match of the night into the program. And they're trying to get to intermission. We still got the hot rod coming. I'm saving that for someone else, so don't worry. I won't do it to
Thank you.
Not on your first night back. Absolutely not. But, no, I mean, at this point, it feels like they're going boom, 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 in and out of the ring. We see that a lot. The guys are finishing up. We might get a replay as the music plays out, and in comes the next match. And that's what they do here. And it's unfortunate for the Brainbusters that they fall in that spot because Arn and Tully barely making up the ring steps before we hear Strikeforce theme begin to play the reuniting of Rick Martel and Tito Santana to that lovely instrumental of Girls in Cars. I don't know about you, but maybe one of the least, popular theme songs that a wrestler came down to of my childhood anyway.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. I get what they're going for, like the pretty boy look. It definitely fits Martel and Zink way more than it does Tito and Martel. I'm not saying Tito's not a good looking guy, but the story and things that they're going for with the Can-Am, it definitely fits them way more than
that might have, that's a good call. That might have worked. Had Tom Zink hung around just a lot while longer, he might have. That might have worked. I could have seen that. You're right. It might be Tito. Maybe this whole thing. It's not the song. Maybe it's just Tito Santana coming out to the song that's had me shook all these years. I don't know what it is, but I tell you one thing. This is kind of cool when you think about it. We've got the former WWF World Tag Team Champions. They lost it a year ago right here in Trump Plaza to Demolition. Talking about Strikeforce taking on the former NWA World Heavyweight Champions Arn and Tully, who lost the belts to the Midnights on their way out of the company back in the fall of 1988. So both of these guys have held world tag titles just in the past year or so. So that's kind of cool when you walk into this. Though it is the Strikeforce first time back together since the summer of 88.
Yeah, I never really think of it that way, just because I don't feel like the Strikeforce title run really gets any look or any accolades. There was nothing much to it. They beat the Hearts and then they dropped it to Demolition with a few defenses in between. So it's not a memorable run. So honestly, I never thought of it until you just mentioned it. So.
You know, I agree with you too. It felt very abrupt when they won the title. Even the finish was kind of weird, right? Martel had not really put over the Boston Crab as his finisher at that point. In fact, the irony is that he lost the AWA title to a Boston Crab from Stan Hansen with a little help from the turnbuckle corner, but that's neither here nor there. Rick Martel uses the move. Neidhart submits, and they win the belts. And you're right, it just felt very abrupt. It was almost like Vince had to prove something. We don't need Tom Zink, pal. You know, my plans go on as I see fit. But of course, Demolition, they couldn't be denied. They pick up the belts at WrestleMania 4. They've still champions. We learned here tonight, defeating Powers of Pain and Mr. Fuji. So for over a year now, Demolition reign as the WWF Tag Team Champions. Meanwhile, the Strikeforce trying to get back into things. Their last match was against Demolition. We saw them last summer. It aired on primetime. What a way to go. Rick Martel taking the decapitation axe off the apron down to the floor, taking Martel out storyline-wise, and they kind of sold it for a few months there that he may never return. They took him out permanently because they didn't know if Rick Martel was ever going to return, but they left the door open because in reality, Martel's wife was having serious health issues at the time. And I don't remember what they were, but I remember the Observer and things of that referring to it as severely ill. So it was a very serious thing. And credit to Rick Martel, who wanted to go home and be with his wife and help take care of his wife and go off the road. And I'm sure that probably had a little bit to do. I'll take a few months off here. That schedule is something else to behold.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, like, not many guys took advantage of that or even asked. Honestly, you see what Steamboat did and what happened to him when he decided to take some time off. You would think that, okay, I see what happened there. I don't want that to happen to me. And so for Rick Martel to do that and for Vince to let him do it and then bring him back, and obviously we know what happens here, not just bring him back, but pushed him and gave him a new direction and everything. So kudos to him. Must be a respect thing for Martel.
I was going to say, excellent assessment. Maybe he went about it very differently. Maybe because it was an ill wife at home. I don't know what the story is, but that's a good call. Usually, Vince would get pissed off at guys if they got hurt. Bam Bam Bigelow, his career pretty much was over here in the 80s once his knee blew out. Like, how dare you get hurt on my time, pal? And so, right. But Martel, they write him off and they bring him back. And like you said, they're going to do more with him than just put him with Tito Santana on his way back in. And of course, I think a little bit had to do with the fact that Martel is now gassed to the gills here upon his return to the company. He looks tremendous here in 1989. I guess you could say he looks kind of like a model of sorts here. As
yeah, just a little bit.
We get to the ring, Brainbusters out, Strikeforce do follow. I did uncover something this time around that I had never caught before when I was covering the TV leading in. I'd never noticed this before in all the years of watching wrestling, even back in 89 and certainly even in more recent years. But this is really cool. The week after this match was announced for the pay-per-view, there was a Martel squash match. He'd been continued to do singles matches all the way up to the pay-per-view. But only one time, and it was 2-3 weeks ago, he does an insert promo and saying something along the lines of how excited he was to be back in the WWF as a singles wrestler and that he had hoped to secure a singles match at WrestleMania because it was such a showcase event. Unfortunately, Rick said he had to settle for a tag team match in order to get on the pay-per-view, but that he would make the best of it. Doesn't sound like Rick Martel is all that excited to reunite Strikeforce, although there's no tell. I mean, he's not acting like a heel, but just that one random insert promo, that's all the tell we got, too, coming into this thing. But I'd never seen it before, so it really blew my mind.
No, that's very interesting, and it kind of, during the match, Jesse kind of plays off of that.
Yeah,
and
I
Gorilla's
think so.
like, Jesse, you're everywhere. You're in Hollywood. You don't know what's going on. And he's like, Gorilla, I have eyes and ears everywhere.
I tell it like it is, Monsoon. Exactly. So
very interesting that Martel said it, and then Jesse picks up on it and pushes it during the match, if you're paying attention. So very interesting.
Yeah, well, I will say this. Now, both guys have been working in singles matches on TV leading up. Now, Martel's never been in the corner of Tito, But in Rick Martel's most recent matches, Tito has been in the corner of Martel, and they're high-fiving and hugging and celebrating afterwards. So there's really no drama yet. You know what I mean? So even though outside of that one insert promo, there really hasn't been anything mentioned. I talked about this with some of the other guests, but the sound bites, right? There's like 100 sound bites on each of these WrestleManias from this era between Jesse and Gorilla. If you just recite them, they stick out in your head immediately. I post pictures on my social media, and people give me a line from that match, right? Everybody remembers the sound bite. The one thing I don't think that they did here, especially, and it's Gorilla's job to do it, so I kind of lay it on Monsoon, and I've never blamed Gorilla for anything. They didn't do a very good job of telling the backstory of some of these matches that needed some telling, I feel like. I talked about it'll be coming up with my brother with Honky and Hammer and Heart Foundation. They didn't really go into the backstory. There was some fun stuff there that, had they at least mentioned it on the program, there would have been more context to the match. And I feel like in this instance, they could have played into that little insert promo there with Rick Martel. But, like you said, Gorilla kind of just dismisses it, which is unfortunate because it would have made a little more sense. But hey, man, learn something new every day. I learned that Rick Martel kind of foreshadowed things to come here, which was pretty cool. As we get going, sure. Tully and Martel going to start off the match, their respective teams, and what a match that would have made back. Rick Martel versus Tully Blanchard 1-on-1, babyface Martel and Tully, say like in a Crockett setting. That would have been a tremendous match.
Oh yeah. This was all four of these guys. Well, three of them. Tito is Tito, but a lot of rest holds. But the other three can go.
And Tito was talented, and I have to. I hate that I have to cover that every time. Like, yes, but at this point in time in Tito's career, it was Headlock Mania, and that really goes back to WrestleMania 1 with the Executioner. It's been Headlock Mania with Tito at least since his IC title run was over. Yeah, by '86 at least. Yeah.
It took Macho to get something out of him.
Right. Yeah. And that was pretty much
a little bit.
He got the last of it out of him. I feel like that was pretty much it for Tito here. But El Matador is still to come. Ole! But right now, Martel, as I said, looking noticeably bigger, and we'll just leave it at that here in the ring. Blanchard sending Rick into the ropes. Martel catching a knee from Arn on the apron right out of the gate. The Busters looking to control early. I love that because we know Arn and Tully are the masters. If Ric Flair is the dirtiest player in the game, then easily the Brainbusters are the dirtiest tag team in the game. And I mean, this is how you take over 5 minutes in, and they're doing the knee to the back gimmick from the apron right out of the jump.
Oh yeah, for sure. I like a lot of the stuff that they did was subtle that you had to be paying attention to see it them cheating.
Yeah.
The one of them was a missed camera shot, but I think Tully, he had him in a move and Tully poked him in the eye, but you could only see his hand.
I know what you're trying. I think I have it here in my notes at some point. Yep. It was really good.
And then, like, the holding of the trunks, like when I think Tito came in for a monkey flip and Arn held the tights for Tully, so he couldn't go over. So, like, just little things like that not many teams did. Very few teams worked that well together. And I think a lot of that has to do with where they came from. That's the NWA style and those things. And so when you dump NWA into the WWF, stuff's going to stick out way more than what it would if they did that in Crockett. So the Busters are awesome. I love the Brainbusters.
Well, they take over briefly here with that little cheat from Arn on the apron. Rick Martel, though, fighting his way out of the heel corner. Nearly 10 right hands to both Arn and Tully. Great sequence there. Before Tito Santana finally realizes, maybe I should come in and help out my partner. Thanks, Tito. Stereo drop kicks from Strikeforce going to send the Busters out to the floor, regroup with manager Bobby Heenan. Once back inside, Martel taking control of Arn down on the mat. Anderson able to lock in a body scissors on Rick, but Martel countering out of that makes sense, countering out of a body scissors, turning it over straight into the Boston Crab, the same move they used to win the tag team titles from the Hart Foundation about a year and a half ago. Realizing his partner Arn is in trouble, this is what you were referencing, Steve, Tully Blanchard close enough to the Boston Crab to simply reach in and a thumb to the eye. Sometimes it doesn't take an obvious jumping in the ring, hitting the guy across the back. Tully says, why do I do that when Tito's face is directly in front of me here? He just reaches in through the ropes and a little poke to the eye, and the referee in perfect position not to see it.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. So just little stuff like that. Why? No wasted movement, no extra. And you know how Vince hates the breakups. So stay on the apron, poke him in the eye, break it up, and let him get back to it.
Not very scientific, but effective. Rick Martel wisely going to tag out to Santana, which Arn misses. He doesn't see it, kind of a blind tag there. So Santana running in from behind with a bulldog, taking Anderson down. And Tito quickly into a figure four on Anderson. In comes Tully to break that up, but here comes Martel, and now it's stereo figure fours from Strikeforce on the Brainbusters. And as the referee busy getting Arn back out of the ring once those figure fours are broken up, he misses a tag from Tito to Rick Martel. Martel now the legal man, but the referee doesn't see it, so it's a no-go. Rick gonna spring over the top rope into the ring, just as Tito Santana bouncing off the rope, going for his patented flying forearm on Tully Blanchard. But Blanchard gonna drop down out of the way, and Tito blasting his own partner, Rick Martel, flying forearm to Martel. Santana nailing his own partner. And Martel goes down hard, rolling out to the floor. So, two things here, and it's not Attack Tito Day, but if you know you tagged Rick Martel in, why are you going for your fucking finisher here, Tito?
I don't know. It's a little early for a finisher, but I think Jesse plays it off. He's trying to steal the limelight or something like that.
Wow.
It sounds like he's just getting his stuff in at the expense of his partner.
And this feels like there was some really good intricacies here in the booking, like the planning of this match. This a little more than your average WWF match at the time where the guys weren't really putting spots together unless they were Randy Savage. But to do this makes sense. The referee did not see the tag. So now we have a reason why Martel came into the ring to get hit with the flying forearm, but the referee never saw the tag. So when Martel rolls to the floor, Tito's technically still the legal man. It almost feels like Arn and Tully put this match together. It's just so perfect.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't even notice that. I thought the ref saw the tag. So just knowing that they did that, so the match has to continue, and Martel can just walk off that way. Tito doesn't, it's not a count out and it's over right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes a lot of sense.
And I'm not taking away from Martel and Tito. They've been working forever. They've had, excellent matches throughout their career, especially Rick Martel, but both of them, they've had top of the line matches in their life. I'm not saying they weren't capable of putting this together, but in New York world, we never saw detailed spots like this, so this felt more crockety to me, if you understand what I'm coming from there.
Yeah, they were in the WWF ecosystem for quite a long time at this point.
Yeah,
so
with Martel down and out on the floor, a stunned Santana kind of looks over at Rick down there, and Tully, with a nice running drop kick on Tito, puts the Busters back in control. As Rick finally slowly going to make his way back up to the ring apron, still selling the shot to from Tito Santana. It's Santana with a sunset flip on Arn Anderson in the ring, but Anderson able to tag to Tully Blanchard on the way down. This was a pretty common spot from Arn, but I loved it, where he would sell fighting the sunset flip. Sometimes he would go down and kick out, whatever the case. But I always loved the ones where he was able to tag on the way down. And it doesn't end there. That whole spot is excellent because Arn finally goes down. Tito doesn't realize Arn's made the tag. Arn does. And so when he takes the sunset flip, he grabs Tito and wraps his hands around Tito's head so that Santana can't go anywhere. In comes Tully. So that was what was so good about that team, was that they would always keep the baby face on the mat for the other one to come in and take over. And I thought that was another excellent spot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just one of those things. Arn Anderson's one of the best tag team wrestlers, best wrestlers ever, I think. Just so smart, intelligent when it comes to just doing the little things that if you pay attention, you're going to pick up on and realize, wow, there's a reason he did that. Nothing, like I said, nothing's wasted, nothing's stupid, everything makes sense. And he's just the man. And obviously he had a lot of tag partners, but him and Tully is just next level.
Yeah.
So good.
He wasn't doing this. He wasn't doing this with any of his other, even Ole. I mean, they were a great, beat 'em up tag team, but they never worked like this. And of course, Tully had experience working with Gino Hernandez as his partner. These guys had some legendary tag team partners. For you to say, Arn and Tully were the best, and I'm in total agreement with you, but just thinking about some of the other guys they teamed with throughout their career, especially Arn, he had many of partners, but
Bobby, I was thinking of Bobby Eaton and him too.
That was a fun one. Yeah. My son was a big fan of,
Paul Roma.
I'll forget about the Paul Roma one, but my son was a big fan when he was going through 91 of the Larry Zbyszko Anderson team. He was kind of upset that they put Eaton and Arn together because he was enjoying the Zbyszko Anderson team so much. So, I mean, Arn's always had some really good partners, but right here it's Tully Blanchard back in 1989. Tito going to try to fight back as the heels take over. He slips but connects with a crossbody at the same time off the middle rope. So good cover there, Tito, trying to launch himself. A little bit of a slip up, but he does manage to land the crossbody. Going to get a 2 count. Is Arn then going up top? Never a good idea for Arn Anderson. Even I think he has a poorer record than Ric Flair when he goes up top, does Double A. But Anderson up top, and you might guess is Santana launching him off. Big slam off the top rope, goes Anderson down to the center of the ring. Finally, Tito able to make it over that slow crawl to his corner, looking to make that hot tag to partner Rick Martel, who was always a house. I always loved Rick Martel had one of the best fire-ups. He would come in and do that like dancing in place, the running gimmick, whatever. He was always on fire when he got those hot tags. So I loved that. Had this went that way, it would have been a tremendous time to see Rick come in and fire up. But that's not what we're going to get here. Instead, we see Rick kind of slowly walk away from his corner selling. So maybe he's just walking away to sell. Maybe he doesn't see Tito reaching for a tag, but the crowd who have, spent some time in and out paying attention to the show, we get a pretty good loud chorus of boos here for Martel walking away from his partner. So I don't think the live crowd was buying into it being an incident, an accident, if you will.
No, they definitely booed the hell out of him. And he did get some heat there for turning on his boy Tito there. But I agree. I want to go back to the Martel fire up. He did the Ollie shuffle. And one thing I always liked about Martel is he never tucked in his bootlaces. So his where he tied them, they would always be out. And so when he's doing that shuffle, his laces are bouncing back and forth, and you're just watching his feet. And that's why they wear those things for you to focus on it. MJ always wore white socks so you can watch him when he's doing the moonwalk. So Martel had those laces out, and they would bob around, and he'd be doing his punches and kicks and things like that. I think it really added to the heat up, the fire up moment when you got the hot tag. I would have popped for it if he came in.
I would have popped for it too, should it have happened here. Unfortunately, as Tito crawls over to his corner to make the tag, Martel kind of walks away. Arn, though, able to tag in Tully Blanchard. And Blanchard going to capitalize with a stun gun across the top rope as Tito is down and out on the mat. Rick Martel drops off the apron. Martel, visibly upset, begins to walk away from ringside. Rick Martel clearly unhappy as he makes his way all the way backstage, disgusted at his partner's incompetence, if you will, throws his hands up near the dressing room area. Rick Martel appears to be done with the match. So quickly after the Randy Savage heel turn, they go with another heel turn in a tag team match. I thought that was kind of unusual for the time period. But I guess, you already have other plans, and the Mega Powers they're their own entity. So I guess you can kind of duplicate portions here. But nobody really saw it coming. But, Tito hitting him with the flying forearm. Clearly, Martel was not happy with it. Of course, you could tell the backstory that he just came back from a severe, nearly career-threatening injury, and here's this guy that's supposed to be his partner out here hitting. He can't be seen with people like that. And I've joked in the past that, Tony Gurria was the ringside agent during WrestleMania 5. And I've often joked that Martel gets hit with the flying forearm, gets knocked outside. It's like he's having a flashback of 1981. Oh, no, this Tony Gurria is my partner again. Then he looks over and he realizes, oh, no, Tito Santana is my partner again. I can't win. Fuck this shit. I'm getting the hell out of here. They're losers. Everybody's a loser.
Yeah, that's great. He's in a world of people that turned on him or messed up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it appears Tito. Yeah. So it looks like Tito now forced to go on his own, 2-on-1. And I don't like the odds of that for Tito Santana. Now, as much as Demolition was 3-on-2 earlier, I don't think Tito's going to fare as well here as we get the Arn Anderson patented Spinebuster follows up. And now I really don't like Santana's odds after that one, but it's good to see Arn hit a Spinebuster at WrestleMania long before the Undertaker spot. So it was good to see Arn out here doing some of his signature things. Tito, though, going to give it one last fighting try, as you talked about it earlier, attempting a monkey flip out of the corner on Tully Blanchard. Arn Anderson, what do? He runs over, runs down the apron, grabs hold of Tully by his trunks to prevent him from flipping. So Tully doesn't go flying, but Tito does. Tito flies backwards on the back of his head, bump. And looks like he's half out of it as it is, but the Buster's not done with him yet, hitting their finisher, the Spike Pile Driver on Tito Santana after a little double team heel work there. And it's going to get the 1, 2, 3 in 9 minutes and 16 seconds.
Wow. I thought it was shorter than that. It went 9 minutes. Well, that takes away that note. I wish that matches could go a little longer, because that one I felt like it could have went a little bit longer, but 9 minutes, you say that's pretty good time for what happened there.
Especially with the story. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, that's good. A good match. Nice. And, people got their stuff in, and the Brainbusters are badasses, even though they basically beat up a guy it's like a handicap match.
Right.
But it got heat on them because Tito is loved. No matter what we say about him, he's loved at this point. He's well established.
I was fine with Tito on the card every day, all day, at least until the Matador gimmicks. That thing just wore me out, man.
Yeah.
But up until that point,
Agreed.
I was fine with Tito being in the company. I was fine with Tito on the card. Tito was a good enough asset, especially on the bumping side of things. But Tito was a good enough asset. Yeah, absolutely keep him around. Now, I know you would have to be watching and following week-to-week TV to really notice this. I hadn't noticed this till I covered it on the Grenade. But the Busters have been here about at least 6 months or so. And their finisher, after the first month, 2 months, they were hitting it was like a spine buster, slingshot. So they were both hitting their finishers, Arn and Tully, and then they would pin the job guy. Eventually, they move into this spike pile driver. They've been using it for months now. However, this marks the first time they do it in front of the referee. Up until this point, their spot has always been to lure the other guy on the apron, and so the referee would have to push him back, and then they would hit the spike pile driver behind the referee's back to get over how devastating and dangerous it is. They likely might be disqualified because it's such a deadly maneuver. But now that we're moving them up a notch here to where they're going to start working with the top tier team, well, they've already been working with the Rockers, but even more teams and things like that, I guess they've decided, at least by WrestleMania, that you're going to have to, we can't just keep luring people in for you to hit your finisher. We've been doing it for 4 months now. And so we get it here, and it's on Tito. And like every WrestleMania where Tito takes the fall, another amazing bump from Tito Santana.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it tops the WrestleMania 6 bump, but it's still a really nice bump.
It's one of the best.
I jotted that note down before I got to the end of the match, and I always liked how they did it from behind the referee's back, because that was unique and different. And I think we talked about this before, but it was kind of a play on like NWA, how that would have been a DQ or something there. So they feel like they still had to hide it here. So I think I'm with you. I think they just said, all right, we're done with this. It's fair game. Do it, establish it, and then use it, because you're moving up the card. It's not very much longer after this. They become champs. So
yeah, well, Arn and Tully securing their first and only WrestleMania match victory. That's a crime. But yeah, they scored the win over Strikeforce, or at least Tito Santana. Bobby Heenan quickly into the ring to celebrate with his men. Really solid for what it was designed to be, I thought, from bell to bell, which was make the Brainbusters look like a top caliber team. And of course, this was a vehicle to get over Rick Martel's heel turn. Obviously, that was pretty much point there. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Interestingly, they chose to run the angle on pay-per-view, making it mean even more than usual, right? We usually see the turns don't happen on the pay-per-view. They happen on TV. And it only made sense to have him turn on Tito, since that was his most recent partner. If you want a guy to turn heel and he's got to do something dastardly, make it make sense. And so the last thing people remember Rick Martel for was Strikeforce. So let's put them back together to take them apart.
Yeah, that makes sense. I always see. I didn't realize Martel had come back for that long prior to WrestleMania. So he wasn't. Was he in the Rumble?
Yeah, Rumble. Right. Yeah.
Okay. So is that like when he first came back?
Off the top of my head, either he had one squash match before that, or I think he did a taping before that, but I don't think it aired until after the Rumble. So that may have been his first match back in the ring that we saw.
Okay. Yeah. So. And obviously I wasn't watching TV then, because I was like 3 years old. I wasn't even 3 years old. I was 2. So I hadn't turned 3 yet. So I was not watching weekly TV. So watching back on tapes as a kid, didn't realize. I just thought Martel first came back at the Rumble and then nothing. And then he came back together with Strikeforce at WrestleMania. And that's where they were going to go with it. So when he turned on him and I saw that for the first time, I was like, wow, that's different and cool. I like it. So, It did its job, I think. It's unfortunate, kind of what it leads to.
Yeah.
It didn't. I'm sure we'll get to that, but yeah, it was good.
I think what hurt the turn a little bit here was the lack of crowd reaction, which I mean, you can't ignore that. While it seems less prominent, we still have a lot of high rollers around ringside, right? So even though the crowd's a little louder this year than it was for WrestleMania 4, I feel anyway, there's still a lot of high rollers around ringside. So seeing a heel, they don't know what the hell they're watching. They don't know who any of these guys are. And so we do get some boos when Martel walks away from Tito on the apron, but I just feel like the walking away didn't get as much of a response as you would have liked to have had if I was Vince or Martel. But we know, he's going to have a hell of a fun little heel run. As Martel had stated, for him to be here, for him to come back to the company, he made a call. He said, Vince, I'm not coming back unless you let me turn heel. Tito claims he also asked to turn heel in this match, not with Martel, but against Martel. And but apparently, Martel told Vince, I'm not coming back unless I get to be heel. And Vince kind of argued with, not in a Vince argument way, but just in a, Rick, I don't see you as a heel. I don't think you can pull that. I don't think you can be a heel. You're just too handsome and et cetera. And Martel said, look, man, it's either this way or I'm not coming back. And again, you go back to taking time off and still getting pushed. Now you're telling Vince what you're going to be if you come back. And he's still so there's clearly some serious respect there. Vince certainly saw talent in having Rick Martel on the roster.
He saw the importance of having Martel. It would have been interesting, though, if Vince said, F you go find it somewhere else. And then
I'm sure Crockett would have. Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah, I would just wonder what that would have been like. That would have been fun.
Yes,
give me some Martel and Great Muta or whatever, like him and Lex Luger in '89 or something.
Any of those guys, good. Martel and Flair, Martel and Funk, Martel and Steamboat, man, any of those, Martel and Sting, any of that would have been good stuff. So
that would have been amazing. I can see why Vince maybe pumped the brakes on that. I don't know the fear level of NWA in '89, but you don't want to give him a hand like Martel.
And I'm sure Rick Martel came to him like a normal business guy too. I doubt he was like, "Hey, motherfucker, you give me a heel turn, or I'm fucking going somewhere. Well, you're going somewhere else then, pal." But we're going to go backstage right now is where we're going. We're going to go off to Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with Rick Martel.
Rick Martel, what kind of an explanation do you have for your actions out there? You left Tito Santana high and dry. You walked away from your tag team partner.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, he just got what he deserved. I'm sick and tired of him. I'm sick and tired of carrying him around. I was doing great when since I've been coming to WWF as a single wrestler. But no, Mr. Tito wants to ride my coattail once more. But I'm sick and tired of him. I've been carrying him around for too long already.
Wait a minute, Rick Martel, you're out of line. Strike Force was supposed to be a team.
I don't want to be associated with that guy. He's a loser. You saw his timing was way off. You're lucky that I'm being a gentleman that I am. I just walked off. That could have been a lot worse for you, Tito Santana.
I think we've heard enough.
I'm fed up
with you. Let's go back to you, Gorilla.
Oh, Mean Gene selling this one hard. Somebody got into Mean Gene's ear and said, we're going to do something with this guy because Mean Gene's selling this harder than pretty much anything other than the Mega Powers turn. Rick Martel, what kind of excuse do you have for your actions out there? You left Santana high and dry. Mean Gene really get this one over.
Oh, yeah, that was the note. I really sold the anger of what Martel did. I loved it. I mean, he was hot. Gene was hot.
Yeah, they both did a tremendous
elevated
job.
Voice. I like the promo by Martel. He's a loser. He's lucky I didn't do more.
Yeah, he's a loser.
He's lucky I just walked away.
It's tremendous. Stating he's sick and tired of carrying Tito Santana around. I was doing just fine as a single since returning, says Rick Martel. As far as I'm concerned, Santana got what he deserved out there. He's done with Tito, trying to ride his coattails once more. Ooh, what a nasty jab there. Rick Martel talking about Tito riding his coattails. Mean Gene, but Strike Force was supposed to be a team. A team! I mean, Mean Gene just over the top. I'm not a big Mean Gene guy when he's over the top, but man, this was some fun shit. With Rick, I don't want to be associated with that guy. He's a loser. His timing's way off. So Rick Martel, sick of Tito Santana. And like you said, he says Tito was lucky that Martel's the gentleman that he is, and he just walked off because he could have done a lot worse.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really good. It's probably the best promo on the card.
Yeah, there were lackluster promos overall at WrestleMania.
The Hogan promo was Hogan, but that you go
and Randy declined promos, right?
Yeah, they're their own entity, so we'll consider everything besides the Mega Powers. I think Martel had the best night.
I mean, he is competing against Elizabeth, Sherry, and so it's not like it's a fucking rough hard night.
I did like the Dibiase promo though with Shivani. That one wasn't bad. Just his high rolling and rubbing it in your face was pretty good promo.
But let me tell you something. Vince says, "All right, Rick, we're going to turn you heel. We're going to do this shtick. We're going to put it at WrestleMania." And boy, did Rick deliver. He was ready for the heel turn. Excellent asshole heel attitude. The aggression here backstage. Clearly sick of Tito Santana. And again, clearly been into the medicine, Bubba, if you know what I'm talking about. Jacked up is Rick Martel here upon his return. So he's definitely healed, and he looks like he's ready for a push to come as a bad guy.
Yeah, for such a big heel turn and a great night, as soon as they put him with Slick and he started dancing like a king, I was like, this sucks.
Well, he had to find his way, right? That was unfortunate, but he was still Rick Martel in the ring. So, you got that much to look forward to. He's got some fun matches coming up this summer, I know. The house shows anyway. I don't know if they're going to do a whole lot with him on TV, but it was kind of cool because not only does Mean Gene act appalled, they actually go back to Jesse and Gorilla and give them a couple minutes to discuss the heel turn. Now they're doing that probably to set up Piper's Pit in the ring, but still, any minute you get of time, publicity on television, that's something towards your character. And here's Jesse and Gorilla. Of course, Monsoon says, you don't do stuff like that in the middle of a match, Jess. You settle it outside the ring. And Ventura, I just love the way Gorilla delivers everything. You're laughing because that's how fucking Gorilla delivered it. You don't do that, Jess. Ventura.
Oh my God. I was like, what do you mean you don't do it in the ring? Why wouldn't you do it in the ring? He's right there.
Ventura thinks Martel was never big on the tag team, and he thinks Chico pushed for it from the beginning. Well, I don't know about the beginning, but certainly the return. This was all Tito, no doubt. I blame Santana, and now he got what he deserved as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, that loser riding my coattails no more. Rick Martel, now a heel. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to so many cool things coming out of WrestleMania 5. We've still got another half of WrestleMania to get through, unfortunately, but we've got several more special guests coming next week, so stay tuned for that. We'll announce them over the upcoming week here on social media. Steve, before you go, though, I want to take you back in time. I know you said you were 3 years old in 1989, so I'm not going to ask you from the 89 point of view, but your point of view of whenever you got into watching the older stuff I know you got into it in the early 90s, so your first memories of getting a hold of WrestleMania 5, just take me through, like, when you rented it or whoever brought it over, whatever the case may be. Just take me back to your memories overall of the show.
Can't remember the first time I watched it. I'm pretty sure I watched WrestleMania 4 first. And so I remember watching that one and being hooked to the TV, watching the tournament as if it was live, and I had no idea who was winning and all that, and just how the bracket broke down and all that. And I've always been a fan of Trump Plaza. I love the long entrance with the stairs. I like the look of the building. The fans leave a lot to be desired, but the building itself was always something I always liked. So when I would rent these wrestling shows, my video store had you rent 5 movies for $5 for 5 nights. So you get them for 5 nights.
We had that shtick too in the early 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would, if I was going to rent a WrestleMania, it was usually 4 and 5 for the most part, sometimes 6. So I really enjoyed the shows, and I think a lot of that had to do with just the visual of it. The matches, obviously, there's things on here that I like. I like the Rockers match. This match was good. Rude and Warrior was pretty solid. Obviously, Macho and Hogan. I know it's a basic Hogan match, but it's still Macho and Hogan. It's the blow off to the biggest money feud in the WWF up to that time. So, like I said earlier, the historical importance overall of the show is a plus. I know it gets ragged on for being too long and boring, which it should, but that was just the way they built cards back in the day.
WrestleMania cards anyway. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of filler.
It was about getting all the talent on there because it was like a troupe. Obviously, Hogan and Savage sell this pay-per-view. None of these other matches.
Payday for those guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though it's the first generation of WrestleMania talent, so they had never seen they didn't grow up on WrestleMania, right? So they're not sitting out here marking out that I'm on WrestleMania 5. They're just out there to get really good paydays with it's business, right? I mean, I'm going to get paid tonight. You know what I mean? So no, that's absolutely.
We're all thanking Hogan for the house.
Yeah, and they better thank Randy too, because Hogan's going to sell out. I don't know if he's going to sell 767,000 alone. That took a specific story. That took a very specific story, and they did an excellent.
Clearly, because they didn't do it again.
Yeah, for another 10 years ish or something. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
So, but I'll say this: when you watch Coliseum videos, they're chopped all to hell.
Yeah,
and then I had a friend that actually got this on pay-per-view, and this was like when I was 4th or 5th grade, so it's way down the line since this was aired. He actually had the VHS of the pay-per-view version that he taped, and I got it from him. And so when I watched it, I was like, man, this is a completely different show.
Yeah,
because you get entrances, you get different interviews that you didn't get on Coliseum video, and it's a lot longer. And I was like, man, this is cool. And then seeing the live versions later on after you get into tape trading and doing all that stuff was another cool thing. Like you're watching them again for the first time. But it was a good show. I enjoy it. I can go back and watch it. It's one of the runs I'll get on. I'll do 3, 4, 5, 6 mostly skip 7, which is weird because that's what made me a wrestling fan, and then I'll watch 8 just because it's in my hometown. So,
well, that's fair. That's fair biasness there, because that's pretty much where I've stopped watching is when we get to 8. But that's my preference. But no, I try to, when I'm in the mood, I'll try to get to 10. 10's my cutoff. You can't really force me to watch 11.
Oh, geez, 11's terrible.
Oh, well, we're here in 5, so we're having a good time here in 1989. And Steve, want to thank you so much for stopping back by the Grenade, man. It's been a long time, but you fit right in, man. You came right back in, just like you never left this place. We certainly appreciate you coming in and lending your voice and opinions and thoughts and whatnot on one of the better matches on the pay-per-view. So you got that going for you too.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't get the short end of the stick.
No,
Sorry,
we appreciate
Dave.
you, man. You're coming in and closer. The closer, at least of part 1 here, is Steve Eckstadt. Thank you again for being here, man. We look forward to seeing you again down the road here on the Grenade, man.
Yeah, we'd love to come back.
We'll be talking to you soon, brother. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, man. And I am going to thank all of you guys out there, all the listeners, for staying tuned and tuning in to all of the great guests. We had 4 big guests lined up this week. Got to thank Jammie Ward once again, Brian R. Solomon, of course, Mr. Dave Dynasty, and even Steve Eckstadt joining the program. How about that? Some really great context throughout the entire program here. Some great memories shared. And go pick yourselves up Irresistible Force. Be sure to listen to Wrestling Nostalgia. I want to thank all of the great guests we had this week. And guess what, guys? We've got more guests coming next week as part 2 of the definitive edition of WrestleMania 5 rolls on. Some serious guests coming up. One of them will actually be my brother. He's been joining us for some of the pay-per-views. He'll be discussing a couple of the matches as well. But we've got a doozy. Going to kick off next week's show. You want to find out who it is? Stay tuned to episode number 190 next time around. But for this week, I think I've held you guys long enough. We're going to wrap things up here. So to close out the show, just a reminder, next week we continue on our story. The WrestleMania 5 review will continue, and we're going to kick things off the right way. Well, I don't know about the right way, but we're going to kick things off with the return of one Rowdy Roddy Piper and that Piper's Pit segment, famous or infamous, you be the judge. And we're going to take the show all the way down to the Mega Powers exploding in the main event right here at Trump Plaza Convention Hall. But until then, this is Ray Russell saying from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and I'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. I'll see you next week. Don't miss it. Be there!
Rick Martel, what kind of an explanation do you have for your actions out there? Strike Force was supposed to be a team,
Mr. Tito wants to ride my coattail once more, but I'm sick and tired of him. I've been carrying him around for too long already. I don't want to be associated with that guy. He's a loser. You're lucky that I'm being a gentleman that I am. I just walked off. That could have been a lot worse for you, Tito Santana.
I think we've heard enough.
I'm tired. I'm fed
Let's
up
go back
with
to you, Gorilla.
And crown thy good with brotherhood from sea